Life's a beach, ain't it? I don't know.
I walked around as a potato.
Hello!
Hello, welcome to Screen Weens, the only screen where you got your weens out.
And you don't have to tell your grandma this week, because we're watching a bunch of your grandma's movies.
Yeah, your grandma is... If your grandma's Agnès Varda, let me know.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to you. I guess that would mean you're either, Matthew or Rosalie's?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So I think Rosalie had 3 kids and Matthew has 1.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Huh.
Because they show that in the Features of Agnes, I think. And they're all adults by now, because I think the kid and... Actually...
Maybe.
There's a chance... No, that they are, because... Well, at least the ones they show in Features of Agnes, because I think the kid and the, youngest is probably about our age now.
Oh, weird.
It's weird to think about.
Huh.
It's just weird. It's weird watching, old documentaries, because, that person is dead.
Yeah.
You see the same thing when you're watching, an old movie, but within an old documentary, it's well, this is an actual person. It's not just, a character played by the person.
Yeah.
So, everything they're saying is messages from a ghost.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we watched 6 Agnès Varda films this week.
Yes, we did.
Did you get a chance to watch anything else?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I
because
didn't.
it was, 3 days?
Yeah, I guess technically 4.
This being the 4th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we had, we technically had Wednesday after we left, but that was 4 hours left of Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, no, I had to go straight to work.
Technically today, yeah. So 3.5 days to watch these 6. And I'm and we knew what they were 2 weeks in advance too. And I was just yeah, I should probably do that because we won't have a lot of time. And then I just did it.
Literally every time we do this, I'm 2 weeks in advance, let me know. And then I don't watch them until the final 2 days. I'm
well, it's just I like watching them right before
fresh,
because it's fresh. And I feel I've stopped taking a lot of notes on movies because it feels I'm just regurgitating information that I'm not really believing anymore. It's just it feels too clinical in my approach of it, and just speaking from my heart I feel is a better option. But when it's been more than 3 days, then I'm okay, maybe I need notes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I operate too. I've considered watching on a typical week, not necessarily with the deep dives, but watching them at the beginning of the week, right after we do them, and then right before again. But
I'm just really afraid one of them I'm gonna really dislike the first watch, and I'm ugh.
No, I
have to rewatch.
I do that a lot too, and especially when it's we have ones that are they might not be long, but they'll feel long. They'll just it might not even necessarily be a bad movie. It'll just the pace.
I don't know. Even unless a movie's really good, if it feels long, I don't really want to watch it again.
Yeah.
If I'm going to give a movie a 6 out of 10 and it's 2 hours, but it has really slow pacing, I don't ever see myself watching that movie again. Not because I love slow pacing, but I just don't really see it. I don't really see a point in rewatching a 6 out of 10 movie most of the time.
Yeah, unless there's some iconic moments in it that I can remember, and then years later I'm oh, what's the rest of the movie and I want to re-experience it or something.
But in that case, it feels more there are some 6 out of 10s that are a 6 out of 10, and then there are 6 out of 10s that are this is an 8 out of 10 and a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I would rather, I could rewatch one of those because it has those, brilliant moments. But, just a really, just slightly above average movie, through and through, I'm just no.
Yeah, Last of the Living, that movie's, terrible. But that priest scene, that's top-notch cinema right there.
Remember when he says his pun? Remember when they, sexually harass a woman the entire runtime? Woo! Yeah!
You remember that effect that they tried to pull off where they just did the pinch effect on the zombie's face? And it's oh, it's a zombie. See, the face is decomposed.
I don't I don't really think I watched anything else, really. Oh, except I did watch The Turning, which just came out in the theaters.
Oh, yeah. I watched your...
The review.
Yeah,
that one was fucking awful. Like, the trailer looked pretty bad, but I was like, okay, well, it has Brooklyn Prince, Mackenzie Davis, and Finn Wolfhard, which I'm a fan of, like, all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Like, woof. And then The Gentleman was really good.
Yeah, I saw that you liked that one.
Yeah, I still haven't seen like the first few Guy Ritchie films, which I've heard are his best. But because have you seen like Snatch? I've heard Snatch is really good.
No, I haven't seen Snatch. I don't. What else has he directed?
He did like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He did the two Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr., which I remember liking like when they came out.
I saw the first one when it came out, but.
I rewatched them like a couple years later, and I'm like, they're like okay, they're not like terrible. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He did Aladdin, the 2019 one.
Oh yeah,
which that's probably the other one that I like enjoy from it. It was like it wasn't great or anything, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, he's oh, and he did the King Arthur movie from like 3 years ago.
Oh yeah,
so that was bad. I saw him in theaters with Joe, I think, in Hawaii.
So, aside from the first Sherlock, I haven't seen any of his works.
Yeah. But I've heard that, like, I think it's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I've heard that movie's, like, really good. As well as Snatch.
Okay.
Those came out in, like, 98 and 2001, I think, something like that. And then I watched, are you familiar with the horror film The Boy?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. I know that it like just got a sequel.
Yeah, it's getting a sequel. Like it's so dumb. Me and Pierre were gonna rewatch The Boy, because I'm gonna see the new one in theaters because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just watch we watched a movie called The Doll instead. Which
I saw 3 of those stacked on my letterbox like. Recent from Friends. I saw that you, Joe, and Pierre.
Oh, yeah. Joe watched The Doll 2 with us, so... yeah, those movies are really bad.
Huh.
But I love watching, like, haunted puppet movies that are really bad. Most of them are very bad. There is a scene in the first one where there's, like, a ghost that's, it's like an evil spirit of a little girl, but she's dressed in like a raincoat and you can't see her face and she just looks like a Jawa. And she's just like, hello, I'm hungry. And the woman's like, come on in and have some soup. And she's just sitting at the table with her hood on. You can't see her.
Have you ever seen Milo? It's like a horror movie. Is that
the one with the like weird alien looking thing?
No. At least I don't recall. It's about like I don't remember the specifics. Like a boy drowned in a river when a bunch of like.
Oh, I was thinking of Bad Milo. This one.
Oh yeah, no, I watched like the first 20 minutes of that one on Netflix.
Milo. Oh yes, you're the only one on my letterbox that's rated it.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
That's like a based off memory rating. Yeah. I haven't watched it any time since I was like a kid.
I see the poster. Is that person wearing blackface?
No, it's just meant to be like, you can't see his face, I'm in a shadow.
Dun dun.
I liked it when I was a kid. It's probably pretty bad now, if I had to guess.
Nice.
What did I rate it?
A 5 out of 10.
That might seem appropriate.
There are a lot of 5 out of 10 movies.
Yeah.
Just what happens. There's a lot of every movie, I guess, though. There's just a lot of movies. That's what happens. And then I think that was pretty much it for my watches. Haven't really done a whole lot of watching. I watched, which is funny, they brought it up in I think The Beaches of Agnes, La Jetée. I watched that, like, before I watched The Beaches of Agnes. It's like a sci-fi story. It's about, like, time travel and stuff, but it's told just through narration and just still shots.
Okay.
So pretty much just it's just photographs and narration and like sound cues and stuff.
I think
it's really good.
I think I might have that on my hard drive.
It's really good. It's on the Criterion.
I know I've got a
channel.
movie that's still shots, and it does begin with an L. So
it's probably that. As soon as I watch it, I'm like, I have an idea for a movie.
Yeah, I've always thought like still shots were like a neat idea with movies because when I was a kid, I had the basketball VHS, and on that had the trailer for Buffalo 66, and the trailer for that was like Heart of the Sunrise by Yes, and it was all like still images, and I always thought like the whole movie was going to be like that, and I was like, that's cool. I like that.
Well, it's like I specifically watched it because it's in there's the Adventures in Movie Going series on Criterion, where they talk to like one relevant celebrity and they go through like some of their favorite movies and talk about the reasons why they like them. And Ryan Johnson was talking about La Jetée. And, that's like one of his favorite like sci-fi films because it plays with like the format. And okay. I agree. He was talking about how like still images capture something that moving pictures can't.
Oh yeah.
Like especially like I think that like there needs to be more horror films that use still images because there's something like really ominous about a still image.
Yeah. Especially if it's not like a technique that's used throughout the whole movie, but just for like specific scenes of horror or something. Like I could see like David Lynch really utilizing like still images where it like gets
and even just like still shots that like are just static shots of like nothing really in the room. Like if they just hold on that for like 20 seconds, that can be like really like nerve-wracking.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about like French New Wave movies is when they do like the like kind of like motion and then like they'll do like the freeze frame kind of thing where they start to zoom in, like the end of the 400 Blows, if you've seen that.
No.
I'm sure you've probably seen the shot from it.
Probably.
It's the boy on the beach.
It's 400 Blows by fucking
Truffaut.
Oh, Truffaut. Welcome to the episode about Agnès Varda where we learn that Godard is a fucking asshole.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was like... I
had my suspicions.
I remember watching, like... Because I had seen Faces Places before.
I had.
Yeah, I had seen that and Cleo before.
Oh, okay.
So these were rewatches for me. And I remember Faces Places. I'm just like, Godard, that fucking asshole.
Yeah, I've only seen one of his movies, which is Breathless.
And I've heard Breathless is great.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty geese.
There was a movie. He did like an autobiography at one point, and there was a movie based on that was made like 2 years ago or something. And when he like learned it was coming out, he's like, "This is fucking pointless" or something. So on Letterboxd, that's like the tagline for the movie.
Oh, nice. Oh man, isn't he the one? I don't know if it's him or Truffaut, but I know like one of them went on to make like those like 3D movies where it's like two different scenes going on in each eye.
I don't know, but that sounds
It's got like
intense.
The dog on the poster. I remember like YMS talking about it in one of his best of the year reviews. And he's like, it's not a great movie, but it's definitely unique, and I've never seen another film do this, so I think it's definitely worth checking out for the experience type deal, but I haven't seen it. Nor do I have 3D glasses, so.
Well, you have 3D eyes.
That's technically true. Kind of, I think. I don't know. I don't know if that's, like, quite an accurate description. I don't know what the term... fuck, I'm rambling.
I feel like it was probably Godard.
It was either Godard or...
He did a lot more stuff. He's still alive, too.
Yeah, no, I looked it up after this movie because I was like, I have to find and see if he's commented on why he did this to Agnes, which I couldn't find jack shit.
Truffaut's been dead for like 35 years.
Okay. Then it was definitely Godard.
Godard. I am Jean-Luc Godard. I'm a fucking asshole.
It is me, your captain, Jean-Luc.
Do you remember when I was talking about that movie Donkey Skin it was probably like a month
I remember the title. What's that?
It was like a musical based on an old like French Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
That's by Jacques Remy. Agnès Varda's husband.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Which I had heard of his name. I didn't know they were married, though.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when I was watching it, I'm like, wait, is that... Because I knew the other films he'd made. Those were the more popular of his works. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Man, fuck Jean. God, I'm still pissed at him. I wonder if they, like, actually gotta, like, sit down and talk before she died.
Knowing him, probably not.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
Because he did, they talk a little bit about it, but the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, that's, like, his most well-known film.
Jean-Luc or
Jacques Demy.
Oh, okay.
He loves the musicals.
Yeah?
And
can you blame?
If they're anything like Donkey Skin, I'm sure I would really enjoy them. Yeah, that's all I really watched. Okay. Question time.
Okay.
Only one set of questions this week.
Oh boy, I wonder who.
From Pierre.
Oh, really?
Ooh, local furries in your area want you. Ooh, and also some questions.
Oh.
Hey, it's the only true screener. I'm not calling myself a weenie. And I got the questions.
Didn't we... What... Was weenie what we decided on?
I don't know.
We had this discussion,
didn't we? It's probably weenie, but Pierre can be the screener.
Alright. He's the only one, though. The rest of you who listen are weenies.
You fucking weenies. How do you feel about the concept of hero turned villain? Also, what about villain turned hero? I'm for it.
Live long enough. Or whatever, you die.
Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain?
I think... I don't know.
That's a good line from the Green Goblin.
That is.
In Spider-Man, directed by Timothy Raimi.
Yeah. Anyway, it's actually directed by Mark Webb.
What? That's the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's which one that quote's from.
That's not true.
I'm pretty sure it is.
You're fucking with me. That's not true.
That quote is definitely from The Amazing Spider-Man.
It's not true.
It's from The Amazing Spider-Man 2! Electro says it, okay?
No, it doesn't.
He does it right before he falls in the fish tank and becomes a villain. He goes, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And he falls into the fish tank.
Does he actually? I know it's from the first Spider-Man, but knowing Mark Webb, I could see him redoing it in that.
Wait, hold on. Are we shitposting still? Or
no.
It's from The Dark Knight.
I mean, it's also in Spider-Man 1.
Is it?
I swear to God it is.
I haven't watched the first Spider-Man.
Maybe I'm fucking lying.
You might be. I was just going along with the shit post. No, you're lying to me. It's not in that Spider-Man movie. It's in the first Spider-Man movie. I think, to answer your question, Pierre, I don't know. It depends on how much detail and how much characterization is put into it, because both the concept of hero turning villain and villain turning hero are pretty cliche at this point. You know, it's been done a lot. I mean, we've only got 7 basic plots that we can just kind of remix around. So I don't know. I like to see some variety in there, some new twists and turns I wouldn't have seen before. Maybe not so black and white. I don't know. I kind of like the middle ground of anti-heroes personally. But was he asking if I liked them?
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think anti-heroes kind of add a lot more variety because they're about the gray that's in between and can lend itself to more interesting character arcs. But I don't know. It's pretty alright, I guess. Can be done well, can be done poorly. Just depends on the execution. Why don't you like monkeys, Pierre? What the fuck? What did Jack do to you? Has he watched that yet?
No.
Are you looking for that quote still?
Yeah, I mean, like, they say it. He pretty much says it in Spider-Man, just in more words.
Okay.
Because do you remember he paralyzes Peter, and he's like, we could join forces. And he's like, you chose your path, and I chose mine. And everyone loves you. But soon enough, they'll turn against you. And he pretty much says you'll see yourself become a villain.
Oh.
He just says it more. It's a better line.
Yeah, probably.
Spider-Man's an amazing movie.
I haven't seen it in a good long while, but I remember liking it quite a bit.
27-year-old plays a high schooler.
Yeah.
I mean, Tobey Maguire has a baby face, though, so whatever.
Yeah.
At least when he was 27, it was fine.
Yeah.
Now he's got, like, the sunken eyes of, like, a depressed man that's addicted to, like, horse races. He's not, but he, like, kind of looks like somebody that would be.
What is it he does? Doesn't he?
Competitive puzzling.
I knew he did something. Good for him. That's cool.
All right. If you had to decide one group of people from the following categories to take priority during an escape from a planet-wide cataclysm and carry on civilization, who would you choose? Who would be the lowest priority? A, engineers, B, artists, C, scientists, D, military personnel, or E, unskilled refugees. And then the unchosen will still escape, but be in smaller numbers.
Oh, man. What a fucking question this is.
See, here's my thing about engineers and scientists. They're like, most of them will be extremely incompetent in recreating the Earth kind of thing. Like, they're really good at the stuff they're doing now.
Yeah.
But if you reset the Earth and you had to, like, build it from the ground up again, they wouldn't know how to do, like, half the things. Or actually, way more than that. Like, most people wouldn't.
Yeah, plus those careers are, like, so diverse and have so many different, like, kind of branching arms that it...
Honestly, in this situation, I'd probably rather have, like, the unskilled refugees, because then it'd be, like, a fresh start completely. With no outside influence from, like, these, from the scientists or engineers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, theoretically, if you had, like, an artist, like, all the artists recreated, you could make, like, a bohemian paradise. Or they might just not be able to make, like, a fire and they just die.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want military personnel to fucking restart the fucking world, though.
Definitely not. That would be my lowest priority.
That's my low.
Alright, yeah. Military, my lowest. My highest.
Engineers, so they can make a trebuchet.
Probably scientists, engineers, the plebs, I don't know.
Whatever. The unskilled refugees. I don't know. Like, every time when Pierre says that, I'm just like imagining like aliens. They're not even like human. They're like showing up with backpacks and they're just like, we're from Mars.
Huh. And then artists, military. As much as I love art,
art will always exist.
Yeah, it'll always exist.
Artists will always come out of the woodwork.
Exactly.
Lastly, how big of a spider would it take to defeat David Lynch in his physical prime? I think Pierre actually thinks David Lynch is, like, stronger than I do. Because then he says, I think that it would at least need to be as large as a Honda Civic. That's a giant spider.
Oh, man. That's pretty small compared to what I was thinking.
Oh, are you thinking, like, the spider from, like, Lord of the Rings?
I was a little bigger.
Little bigger? Wow.
A little bigger.
Like her boyfriend, or like her boyfriend that's like double or something.
Like if Shelob, is that the name of the spider?
I think so.
Yeah, if Shelob was a baby, that spider's mom.
little bigger.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Babies are have you seen a baby spider? It's like 1/15 the size of a spider.
Alright, compare it to the percentage that, like, a 12-year-old would, like, grow in height to be, like, a full-grown adult. I don't know.
Like a regular 12-year-old or like a me 12-year-old?
Like a regular 12-year-old.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably say close to that. Somewhere between the Honda Civic and...
And we're talking about, like, prime David Lynch here, right? Like, in his, like...
Yeah.
30s, 40s.
Yeah, with, like, 30s. When he was training with the sword.
I mean, this man...
He probably did some kind of... He studies meditation.
Yeah, no, this dude's probably, like, secretly a Super Saiyan.
That's why his hair's like that.
Yeah,
it's from
exactly.
Too many transformations. It's just stuck up.
And then he just... He levels it out, though, because he drinks a lot of coffee and smokes a lot of cigarettes.
And talks to a lot of monkeys.
Mm-hmm. But they don't...
He can speak monkey because
they talk back, though. So
yeah, because he's transformed into the great ape before.
How awesome would it be if he just did, like, a little, like, series of, like, Dr. Doolittle murder detectives type
What if the Doolittle movie, instead of Robert Downey Jr., was just David Lynch walking around, "Are you a communist?
I need to find the Elephant Man."
"I am not an animal." "Then why can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "You can talk to humans, too." All right.
Okay. Okay.
What's your idea?
It's a movie about...
Just look at him.
Okay. A man goes to a market downtown. And he just has this dream that leads him there one morning. This is where the film starts. He wakes up and he's like, I gotta get to that market. And he doesn't know why, but he's like, there's something there, and it called me from my dream. And he gets there, and it's a ceiling fan that he finds. But it's got, like, I don't know, nude paintings of celebrities on each one of the, like, little fanning blades. And it's like, they're wooden. And he's like, wow, this looks like a cool novelty item. I'm glad that it called me from my dream. But a bunch of gangsters want it, because it's signed by all these celebrities. I don't know. But so he's got to, like, run from the gangsters and keep the ceiling fan safe. But it just keeps escalating and getting more and more bonkers as the film goes on.
Okay. Here's my idea.
Okay.
A man is told by a fortune teller that he's going to die soon.
Oh! Where have I heard this one before?
However, his wife just left on, like, a trip. This is, like, cell phones, so he can't really get a hold of her. And he's, like, convinced he's going to die, like, very, very soon. So he's like, I have to catch up with her, tell her how much I love her. So it's just, like, him, like, chasing this, like, train that she's on. So he, like, it's like a travel movie. It's like Around the World in 80 Days, like one of those. He just, like, keeps getting on a bunch of vehicles and, like, running after her, trying to catch her. And she keeps, like, getting off and getting on another train. He's like, no! And he's, like, running after her.
Okay. Huh.
It's kind of like a dark comedy. Because he's like, I'm gonna die!
Does he get more sick as the movie gets?
No, he's like feeling fine. And then he's like, I'm fine! And then he, like, gets hit by the train.
Ah.
And then she gets off and she doesn't even notice.
Wow. Great. Love it.
Genius, London. Woo!
Woo!
Alright. So, usually with these, director picks, we talk about their life quite a bit before we get into the movies. However, The Beaches of Agnes is pretty much just an autobiography in a documentary form.
Yeah.
So we'll mostly be talking about her life once we get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first movie we're talking about is 1957, I think. 1957. Let me check my list. Oh, we also have a list of our rankings for the film, and then what we think the other person's rankings are. So we'll tell it at the end.
Okay.
We'll go, okay, so this is what I thought you had, and this is what you actually had. 1962 was Cleo.
Whoa.
I believe her first film was 56.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Like point what?
Yeah, point me toward country
remember.
road.
I can't remember the
Take
name
me
of
home.
name of the place
To the
that
place.
was. I know it had
La
points
Pointe
in it.
Court.
Ah, yes.
La Pointe Court. La Coupa. I've heard that one's pretty epic.
Yeah, I like the concept of it. Seems pretty neat.
I did watch just the standalone version of the short film that's in Cleo from 5 to 7.
Oh.
It's pretty much the same thing, except in Cleo from 5 to 7, you're seeing it from like this angle because she's like looking through a window, so it's just centered pretty much.
Okay.
But I wanted to watch that like by itself before I watched Cleo from 5 to 7, just to see how like it worked by itself.
I didn't even know that it had a different short film in it.
Yeah. All right. So Cleo from 5 to 7. 1962. This was Agnès Varda's big break.
Yeah.
The other few films she'd made, they'd been like well received by people. They're like, this is good, but they made like no money.
Yeah, this is the first one that kind of got her that name recognition.
But she became friends with somebody who got like kind of big. Was it her husband?
Was it her husband, or was it that guy who like ran that company or whatever, who like paid for her hotel when she like came back to town? I can't quite remember. It might have been her husband. I think the guy's name was Jacques, but I don't think it was that Jacques.
Probably. It was somebody.
Yeah, well, somebody helped her make this movie.
Yeah. And well, it was like, yeah, because there was somebody that was like getting kind of big, and they're like, to the producer, they're like, hey, the producer's like, hey, do you know anyone that could make us some movies? Any boys, you know? They're like, no, but I know a girl. Enter Agnès Varda at 5'1", probably. Agnès Varda's very short.
Yes, she is.
I love her. She's so cute.
Yeah, no, she's adorable.
How tall was she? I can't find it.
My guess is like 4'11". 4'11" to like 5'2" max.
Hold on. She was like 5'3".
Oh shit!
Oh, like when she was younger, she probably like she was old. So she was like walking around like.
Plus, she was also like hunched over a lot, so
she probably was by the time she like died. She was probably like 5 foot the way she was walking around.
Yeah. Yeah. So Cleo 5 to 7 begins with a color sequence.
Yeah, I actually really like that. Like the only sequence that's in color in this movie is
the tarot card one.
I remember when I first watched it, I was just like, wait, what just happened? I was like, did I imagine the tarot cards in color? I was like very confused. I had to rewind and I'm like, oh no, they were in color.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like interesting, because she's basically just getting her tarot cards read. She went to the doctor and she's like, oh,
she's convinced she has cancer.
Yeah,
the test results haven't come in, but she's like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, so she's just kind of going here to like, while she's waiting for the results and to test the supernatural and see if it's, the candle's burning at this end too, and apparently it is. And I like this scene and the fact that it's in color, because it's kind of like, I don't know, because it's like an awakening scene, because she's like, because it's like the first person is like, oh yeah, I mean, she's still like, the psychic is still like lying to her, Because she's like, this card doesn't necessarily mean death.
It's just a total transformation.
You're probably never going to get married. You've got an illness. Oh. Death's not certain. And it's just like, she's just like, let me read your hand. I don't read hands, actually. And it's just like... So I think it's like the first time where she's like kind of like seeing the world for what it is in color, maybe. And it's like, oh, I'm going to die. And then... she kind of like leaves back out, and it's like her friends are like, oh, no, it's nothing. You got nothing to worry about. So it kind of goes back to the black and white to kind of like...
Well, it's like, I feel like even the tarot cards kind of represent like the last bit of like hope she may have.
Yeah, that
There's a lot of color, and then pretty much as soon as like the death card comes out, it like cuts to her in black and white, and then cuts back to the tarot cards. It's like, hey, it may not be.
Yeah.
But then because the whole movie is like a lot of like about reflections.
Oh yeah,
like,
they
as in there's literally mirrors in every scene.
Yes.
Like specifically, like the cameras are placed specifically in certain areas to make sure the mirrors are in the shot. So I feel like it's the same thing. Like the tarot cards are a reflection on her like hope, her last bit of hope, and then
that's
when
a pretty
it's
good
like, hey, you're dead. She's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, but yeah, so this happens, and then she basically like leaves and meets up with like her assistant at a coffee shop.
And there's a mirror.
Yeah, and basically like we kind of get a sense of her life. She's like a famous artist, like she sings songs.
She's like a musician. She's like she sings songs, but it's not to the point of like ultra fame where people recognize
she's
her.
just got a few like singles.
Yeah, like if you said her name, they would recognize her, but like her face isn't synonymous with like fame yet.
Yeah.
Which is probably like the best place to be if you're like a musical artist.
Exactly.
It's like, cool. Some people will recognize me and go, hey, you're cool, but I'm not being like mobbed on the street.
Yeah, no one wants to be that like Kanye West famous.
Yeah.
Except for Kanye West.
I don't think Kanye West even wants it.
Well, he definitely did at one point.
Yeah.
Because of, the whole like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy era, and then then he got it, and then now I think he's like, fuck.
Now he's like, I'm going to church.
Yep.
Time to go to church.
But yeah, we get a glimpse at her life. By the way, this movie is like entirely like meant to just kind of like show her life from 5 to
like
7.
6. Yeah, it's
not
called
really
from
7.
5 to 7, but it's like
5 to 6:30.
Yeah, from 5 to 7 is just a better title than Cleo from 5 to 6:37. No.
Yeah, exactly. So she meets her assistant, and her assistant's like, the doctors, what do they know? They say you might have cancer. The fortunes, what do they know? You're probably fine. You've got absolutely nothing. Like, they just show no fucking concern whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
That she's like, hey, I think I'm dying. They're like, no, you're not. Stop being such a prima donna.
And she's like, let me tell you a story to like this random guy that works there. She's like, let me tell you a story. And she starts going on. He's like, I gotta go. I don't know if you noticed this, but like at one point he just switches with a coworker to continue listening to the story. There's some really funny moments in this movie. Yeah, he just kind of like walks away and someone else comes up and he's like, mm-hmm. And it's really funny.
I noticed that it was like a worker there at the end because he brought like the coffee. But interesting. But yeah, while she's telling her little story, Cleo, coffee's falling off my tumbler. It's like one of those like. I hate that because my stomach will like rumble and it's like it sounds like a fart, like it's an internal fart. It's just like, and I'm like, no, I swear that was in, not out. But she's like listening to this couple, and the dude, I don't remember exactly what it is, but he's like trying to pressure her into sex, and she's like, well, if you really feel that way, you can just go, I guess. And he's like, are you fucking serious right now? And leaves, and it's just like, oh. She clearly made the right choice.
And we see them in a reflection.
Oh, what? I thought that was just the table next to it.
Well, it's weird. It's a weird shot. Like, they play with the perspective, like, really well in the shot. Because, like, once you, like, zoom out, it was like a mirror. They're sitting right there, but they're also at a reflective wall.
Okay.
So I think what they did was they pointed at the reflective wall so that, like, it's coming from the other side. It looks really weird.
Okay.
Because it also looks like they're far away in some cases, but they're like right next to them.
I wonder if that was meant to kind of like mirror how she like internally felt about her relationship, which we're about to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, because she listens. There's a lot of like random conversations she hears, and they're pretty much all relevant to her life. In some capacity.
Yeah. So yeah, they leave this coffee shop. They go back to her place. There's some cats. It's cool. Then her like...
Yeah, she has like 5 little baby kittens. And I specifically love the one, like, she first gets there, she, like, takes off her dress, and she, like, just has, like, a nightgown over, and then she puts on, like, a robe. And then she's walking around, I don't know if you noticed the little kitty that's, like, attacking the robe.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, it's like, every time, both times I've seen it, it's just, like, a little kitty that was walking around, and then she puts on the robe, and it immediately starts, like, jumping on it. And then she, like, sits on her bed, and there's, like, 4 more kittens. Huh. She's like, I want to have, like, just an abundance of tiny little kittens.
Yeah.
But I kept being like, oh, nobody step on one. Yeah. So then her boyfriend shows up. And he's like, sorry, I've been busy.
I don't have time. You look hot. I don't have time, though. And then he just leaves. And that's pretty much...
And I'm like, why'd you even show up then?
Yeah, exactly. He's like,
She's
are
like
you ill?
Super unfulfilled.
She's like, are you ill? And he's like, are you ill? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, when aren't you?
Yeah, he's just a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
But then these 2, like, writing associates show up.
Yeah, someone who writes the tunes and someone who writes the lyrics.
And they show up, and I love the music they do in these scenes. Specifically the one, like, but they're all kind of fun, like, and then the one she sings is just, like, fantastic.
Yeah.
And it hit really hard the second time I watched this movie. Like, the first time I liked the music, but this time I'm like, whew, maybe it's because I watched Cleo last out of all of them, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like a pretty good reflection on, like, Agnès Varda's just kind of life in general. Which is weird because she did it, like, so young. Because she directed this when she was 32? 34, I think. She was born in 28.
Yeah. But yeah, so these 2 writers show up. They're posing as like doctors when they first arrive, as like a sick friend.
Yeah, they're just trying to cheer her up. They're like, okay, this will be your syringe, and it's like this giant like syringe, like, and then they walk in and they're like, the doctors are here to cure the patient. And
she doesn't. She's obviously not very amused by this.
First, I feel like she is for a second. Like, she covers her face, like. It seems like she appreciates it, but then she's like, but I'm dying!
Yeah. So, yeah, they kind of, like, drop, like right when they show up, they're like, is she, like, where is she? Oh, she's in bed. Is she ill? And they're like, her, like, assistant's like, yeah. And she's like, she's always got something wrong with her. She's always, like, freaking out about something. Which seems to be everyone's mindset on her. Everyone just thinks she's, like, a little... like over-dramatic person, which she might be. I mean, I didn't see her outside of this 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So, who's to say? But, man.
I also love, because that goes into that same reflections thing, because, like, we see people at just, like, the way we view certain random people that we only meet once in our life is probably drastically different than how they are on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that we'll talk about later in Vagabond. Vagabond is super like that. Like, it's super, super, like, hey, this person might be in your head for the rest of your life from this, like, 10-minute conversation you had with them. And that's, like, not how they are at all, kind of thing. I'm excited to talk about Vagabond.
So, yeah, basically, she sings, like, that final song, and it's lyrics that are very much alluding to, like, death.
Yeah. And she's, like, crying
loneliness.
by the end of it. And then she's like, "Now get out!"
Yeah,
she like starts freaking out.
She's like, "All right, yeah, no, I can't do this one. This one struck a chord with me. Can't do it."
She puts on like a black dress and she's like, "I put on this black dress because this is how your songs are. Sad."
And then she's like, "You never liked me, did you?" And he's like, "I always thought that you were kind of a whiny bitch." And then she's like, "Get out."
And she's also super insecure. Before I realized, on the way to her place, they do take that taxi, and her song's playing. She's like, "Turn it off! I hate it."
Yeah. Like Adam Driver with his movies.
He was just on SNL last night.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It was very good. Not as good as the last time he was on SNL.
But I didn't watch that.
I think he's been on 3 times. I'll have to show you one of them.
I've seen like one clip from one of them, which is like the Undercover Boss one that he did.
Yeah, he did another Undercover Boss this time, but the last time... Actually, no. We'll not talk about Adam Driver on SNL right now.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
It ties so well together in the reflections because Adam Driver is deemed as like, you know, a non-personable like person. He's like very quiet and reserved, but he talks about it in his monologue. How he's a pretty carefree, easygoing guy.
He seems pretty personable from what I've seen.
He just doesn't talk shows and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's just not like establishment level, like sociable, you know.
One point he's like, I do hate red carpets, that's true, but that's just because I can't smile. I look like I was kidnapped and I'm trying to send a signal with my eyes. And then he smiles at the camera like this.
Oh, Adam Driver. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they leave and then she leaves, right? Like right after that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she like meets up. She goes and she meets up with her friend, whose name I can't remember, and her friend's got to like drop off some things at the cinema, and it seems like her friend is like the only person who seems like kind of somewhat concerned about her disease, like gives a somewhat genuine response, like, "Oh, are you sure?" The nude woman.
Yes, she's a nude model for like a sculpting class or something. And she's pretty jovial. She like. Most of the time when a character's introduced, they'll have a little internal monologue about how they feel about Cleo. And she's like, "I love her. I wish I could be just like her," and stuff.
And we'll definitely see that, because the more we hang out with her, the more we kind of get an idea of her kind of resentment of Cleo. Because apparently they were like friends when they were younger. Like they're from the same friend group. And they all had like these big like aspirations to be, you know, artists, celebrity types, and Cleo was the only one who made it out of that friend group.
And I'm always like this kind of resentment in film because it feels more genuine. It doesn't feel like she's actively resenting her.
Yeah, it's not like she's like
internal, that she may not even like realize that she's like in resentment kind of thing. And I feel like that's a much more accurate depiction of people, because you're not, most of the time, you're not going to just hang out with someone you actively resent.
Yeah, it'll be like a comment that'll slip, and then like you might think afterwards like, "Oh shit, I kind of, what the fuck do I got going on that let like a comment like that kind of slip?" Because she drops that one comment when they're in the cab, where something along the lines of like, "You're spoiled" or something like that. But the way it comes out is pretty not good. And I was like, oof. But you could tell that she was just trying to joke around by like the delivery of how she said it. It was just kind of like something where it's like, oh, that was kind of like in touch with something a little deeper there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's like on the cab ride, like right as she's about to leave though. But before that happens, we have the scene where they go to the theater and they watch the little short film while her...
Yeah, they go to the theater and watch a short film with Godard in it. And they have blackface in the movie.
Did they?
Well, I mean, like... I don't think it's, like, actually, like, blackface.
it's culturally like iffy to do, but the main girl, the dark version of her, like, she does have her skin color.
Now that you mentioned that, I do remember seeing that and being like, because I didn't rewind it, but I'm like, I didn't catch it until like the very end. I'm like, was that blackface that I just saw? I was like, nah.
I don't think it's I do think like context matters, and I don't think they were trying to say, yeah, the dark version of her was black. They were just like making everything like darker, and I think that was just kind of a misstep, especially because it was like the 60s. Because Varda was a pretty, like, active, like, member of pretty much every, like, good group. So I don't think it was an intentional thing. But it's weird. Which is weird because I really like the short film besides, like, that one thing. Like,
yeah.
It reminds me a lot of, like, Keaton.
Yeah, Buster Keaton has, like, some blackface
stuff.
I
meant Michael Keaton, actually.
Oh, well, that too. Like,
it reminds me of Birdman.
Yeah, there's like that one specific Buster Keaton short where he gets like paint splattered on like half of him, and he's like, the cops are after him when he's standing at one angle, and he like flips around and they're like, oh. And it's like, that's terrible. That's absolutely awful, but it's a funny visual gag, but it's bad.
But I do like the short film because it's pretty much just a jab at Godard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, stop wearing your glasses, motherfucker. Because that was the big thing, he always wore his fucking sunglasses, but for this short film, he took them off.
Yeah.
He has, like, nice eyes, like she said.
I like that one picture that they showed in, like, the Beach of Agnes a lot, and...
Yeah, it's like a beautiful
the
picture.
One where he's got like all the fucking tears streaming down.
And there's some pretty good visuals in this silent film of like the tears on his face and stuff. It's like it was a good short film even by itself that I watched later. Or I guess before.
But yeah. So
they watch it and they're like, okay, time to go.
And then basically like cab ride drops her friend off, which we had already explained that part pretty much.
Yep. And then she gets dropped off. Oh, she was walking around by herself first before she went to go see her friend.
Well, she was walking to her friend and had that whole like anxiety scene where it's like she sees all the faces of all the people like looking at her on the street, and then she kind of like reflects and sees like...
Well, she sees the guy throw up the frog, eat the frogs first.
Yeah, and that's like a big thing with the movie is like the Pearl and the Frog.
Mm-hmm. And then she sees somebody like puncturing himself.
Yeah.
Like he just has like a big stick through his arm. She's like, ah! And then doesn't she go into that cafe for a second? Just to pop in?
Yeah.
And she...
Oh, yeah. She like...
She just kind of... She plays some music. She goes outside. Immediately, somebody's like, oh, I can't talk with this loud music.
Yeah.
And she just listens. Some guy tries to buy her a drink and stuff. And that's just for a little... I don't remember if anything like... super relevant happens besides just some character building moments.
I'm jumping ahead. When you said the person buys her a drink, I was thinking of the sandwich scene from Vagabond.
Yeah, it's 23 years later.
Yeah.
All right, and then next is, I believe she goes to the park, right? This is pretty much all.
Yeah, the cab drops her off at the park.
Yeah,
because I remember
he's like, I don't know if I can go down this road. But
it's open.
Whatever. As long as we don't get a ticket, we're good.
Yeah, so he drops her off, and then
she's just kind of wandering around, and some guy like comes up to her, and she like starts a conversation with him, and she's like, "I don't usually talk to men. My mind's just elsewhere today."
Yeah, and at first this guy's pretty creepy because it's clear that she keeps trying to kind of like brush him off, but he just kind of is persistent. But like Cleo, he kind of grew on me. Like, I was like, oh, this guy's not too bad.
Yeah. By the end of it, I'm like, okay, I kind of like him.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, kind of just, like, a French thing to be a little more, like, persistent. Like, that was just more of a cultural thing.
I realized it was a cultural thing, but I also find a lot of their, like, culture towards women, especially in this time period, to be pretty detestable. Like, I can't remember if I think it's Breathless. but there's like a character who's like a philosopher in that movie who has like this whole spiel on women. I know like Truffaut at one point had like, he was like, I like making movies where I just have women and I like, they just look visually appealing on the screen.
Which is like, you know, Varda did the same. Like, she has lots of like naked women and like women like, but it never feels like objectifying. It feels like she's building them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Varda was like a super feminist.
Oh yeah, like
it's like, hey,
jumping.
You can use nude people in like an empowering way.
Yeah. And plus, there's like that bit in Faces Places, jumping a little bit ahead here, where like the dude's like, I just think you like naked men. And she's like, of course I like naked men. Naked men and women are beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's true.
What a fucking icon.
Seriously.
I will say, before we get any further, that I think out of the 3 directors we've done so far, Varda may not be my favorite, but I think she's the most consistent for me. Like, that I enjoyed them the most consistently out of the ones we watched. Like, because I've liked every film we've watched from all 3 of them, but I think that, like, this one, I guess this kind of spoils some of my ratings, but, like, this one, I think, like, the lowest was, like, higher than the lowest for the other 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think... I'd have to watch more of her narrative features.
She also, like, her narrative features, like, feel like documentaries as well. Which I like. It's interesting. Varda has this way of capturing people, even if they're not real people, in a way that makes you feel like they're real, like they're just everyday people. It makes you feel, like, at home, I guess.
The filmmaker that I was, like, kind of getting the most, like, kind of, like, vibes from, where I'm like, oh, this kind of reminds me of like a little bit of Jodorowsky, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Like just kind of like how it's like part real, part fiction, and then, you know, if it is autobiographical, it'll be very like cryptic and poetic and full of like symbols and these metaphors and stuff like that.
But what's also fascinating about Varda is her films are really dense in like themes and stuff, but she also makes them super accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I would say the most accessible out of the 3 directors we've watched, especially like compared to Bergman, because Bergman's great. I love Bergman, but some of his films are, I guess, I don't know if like a regular person would enjoy them, at least currently. Varda has done like stuff that it feels like most people can still enjoy.
I feel like,
if you get what I'm saying, I'm not saying like people can enjoy all of them, but
yeah, I'd probably agree with you. I think that her films are a little bit more accessible than Bergman's. I'd say it's debatable. It'd be a case by case basis, because I feel like a lot of people, like modern people, would like a lot of Kurosawa's movies, like High and Low, Seven Samurai, like ones like that.
Seven Samurai is the one that I feel like...
The length would scare people away, but the content of the movie, I feel like most people would be like, oh, you know, this is pretty good.
But I feel like most people nowadays that like aren't into film, like they'll never watch Seven Samurai because of that length. They'll be like, if I'm going to watch a 3 hours long movie, it's going to be Avengers Endgame in theaters. Yeah. Which is fine. I'm not saying it's wrong to like only watch blockbusters. It's fine. Watch whatever you want to watch.
Yeah.
Thomas says while pulling out a knife. Okay, so they get to talking, and she's like, I'm very scared. She hasn't told, like, anyone else that she's dying, really, except her friend. But she, like, didn't tell her boyfriend, because they had fallen out of love, pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's, like, quickly falling for this guy, or at least being like, hey, maybe we could do something if I wasn't dying. But he's like, listen, he's deployed. He's, like, he's in the military. He's like, I'm on leave, but I'm leaving today. So how about this? I take you to the hospital, and afterwards you take me to the
station
port or whatever. Yeah. So they do. They ride on like a bus together, and then they just talk.
And then they get to the hospital or like the big courtyard where all the doctors are, and they're like, "Oh, the doctor's gone." She's like, "What do you mean he's gone?" So then they go and sit on the bench, and the doctor pulls up, and you're like, "What? You didn't come to my office?" And she's like, "They said you were going." Like, "Oh, well, that's silly."
Yeah.
It's like, "Listen, you got cancer, but 2 months of chemo, you're gone. You're done." So it's like she did. It's like her worries were there, but they weren't as like once she faced them, they weren't as big to her kind of thing.
Yeah, they're overcomable.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Wow, maybe we can get together then." So they like say they're gonna pretty much write to each other and stuff, and then they get on
They walk towards the screen and does
the
that.
movie ends.
Yeah.
So I watched this movie a while ago, like a year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
and have you seen Before Sunrise?
Yes.
Because that's like this movie.
There's
I think there's a lot, like especially like the way it's paced, like because the first
because it's got like the real time,
and that's only prevalent in the second Before movie.
Yeah.
And like even like the long bus rides, even just going through Paris, the way they talk, it just felt a lot like that to me. And apparently Linklater's a pretty big fan of Varda. He like did a film thing where he like hosted a screening of like Vagabond. And apparently I haven't seen Boyhood in a while, but Boyhood's ending, I was reading up on it, and it's probably like at least somewhat influenced by this ending.
Okay. I'll have to watch that.
They're pretty similar. They're not very similar in like what happens, but like in the theming of it.
Okay.
But the whole time, like I'm like this feels like a Richard Linklater film. At least this film. With Vagabond, I got completely different vibes from a different director that I'll talk about. I'm like, hey, this is weird. Yeah. What did you think of this movie?
I liked it. I definitely liked it. I will say this one wasn't like... Let me double check here.
I think I'm on the right track from what you're saying so far. In my rankings for you.
It's not in my top 3, I'll say that.
Okay.
But I did find it pretty enjoyable.
No, I really like this movie. I like movies like this. So.
Yeah. I'm still kind of like getting, because I've only seen like a handful of like movies that are like the French New Wave.
Yeah.
And out of the ones I've watched, I appreciate them, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, I haven't watched any really good ones. All the ones I've watched have been from like the early French New Wave years. So.
And when did New Wave end?
Because it's like the early
70s,
late, circa late 50s to like the early 70s, I think, is like the period. So there's still like a ton from like that era that like what it becomes eventually that I need to see.
Yeah. No, it's weird because like I try to be well versed in like it's so hard to become well versed in world cinema, especially if like you live your life just watching like English films like from the US, because it's like, oh god,
yeah,
there's like 7 directors you need to watch from like France just from like this 12-year period.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, and it's like, and then there's Japan where there's like at least like 3 really big names you should watch.
Yeah, and it's like the way I watch movies, I don't like really sit down and like focus a body of work or like a specific genre. I like to kind of like cherry pick my movies and like.
Yeah. Well, and I'm fine with picking like a genre or like I want to be able to watch more of them, but I feel like if I watch too many French New Wave films, then they'll kind of just all blend together.
That's kind of how I feel.
I feel like I need to have a diverse catalog. Yeah. At least like if I watch like. Even like 10 French New Wave films, I could theoretically do that, like in like a small amount of time. But if I watched any more, then I feel like I wouldn't like the last couple. Like, I need to refresh myself with something else. That's why I try to watch movies. And it's the same thing with now, because, like, I try to watch films from other countries. If I watch too many, like, English films, I'll be like, these are all the fucking same.
Yeah.
Especially Hollywood films now. I'm like, this is the exact same movie.
Yeah, no, I'm always trying to branch out and watch a lot more foreign movies. And I've noticed that, like, I'm trying to, like, even branch out beyond, like, my typical countries of, generally, if I do branch out in foreign cinema, it's, like Asian films.
It's, like, France or Japan or South Korea.
And it's, like, so that's why, like, I was, like, picking, like, I picked I Am Not a Witch, because I'm like, oh, I need to, like, mix it up.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah, like, that's why I'm glad there's, if you look on, like, Letterboxd, you can look at the Pro, and it shows you your map, and I want to fill that thing up.
Yeah.
There are, like, a lot of African nations don't have very many films, but they all have films. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to, like, understand that Africa, even, like, within just a few countries that are right next to each other, they have very diverse ways of making films.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, we just don't appreciate that as much because they're not as relevant to mainstream media as, like, Japan and, like, South Korea and stuff. And we assume that those countries will be different because they're separated by, like, a giant span of, like, water. Yeah. So, like, oh, they're going to be vastly different, but it's the same thing. Like,
human themes only go so far.
But yeah, I've seen like a film from Uganda, which is from the Hollywood, which Who Killed Captain Alex, and they just uploaded Bad Black, which they made in like 2017. That they uploaded that whole thing for free on YouTube now.
Oh, nice!
So I'm probably gonna watch that one soon. I want to get a Hollywood shirt. They're not too much. I think they're like 25.
That's not bad.
And that would legitimately go to like help people make movies.
Yeah.
Like, great. Even if I don't like a movie, I want people to keep making movies. Like, Damien Leone, I think, is a fucking awful, like, director, but I don't want him to stop making movies just because of that. Terrifier, man.
Ah.
Like, there's not a movie he's made that I've enjoyed, and I've watched, like, 3 of them.
Yeah, he can keep making them.
But I don't want somebody to stop making movies. Just, like, that's why sometimes when I review a film badly, I'm like, I feel bad in some cases. I know they'll never read it, but I don't want, like...
No, don't say never.
Yeah, well, yeah, like Anish Chaganty, the guy who directed Searching. He's read my reviews on Searching. That's great. But I've also given that 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
4 times. And he's like, you've watched this 4 times? Run comes out this year, and I'm so excited.
Oh, nice.
I think it comes out Mother's Day.
Ooh.
It's like a completely different, like, way. It's like a regular film. So I'm excited to see how he does with that.
Okay.
But I just want people to, like, as long as you're not spewing out blatant propaganda, keep making movies, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you work for PureFlix, don't make movies anymore. You're a bad person.
I agree.
But other than that, keep making movies, even if they suck. I'm gonna make a bunch of movies that fucking suck in my life. I know that. But that doesn't mean I want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even really want Uwe Boll to stop making movies. I haven't seen any of his movies, but, like, if he wasn't such a dick to people, then I'd be like, yeah, keep making movies. But the
he's
fact that he's just like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you is just such a childish thing to say. I'm just like, stop being a baby!
I don't know, I kind of like Uwe Boll.
I mean, I like him as, like, a meme. I don't like him as a person.
From what I've seen, like, because he never, like, actually, it's not like he shows up to your house and is like, you talk shit about my movie, like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It's more like, you know, he'll reach out to you and he'll be like, hey, you know, you talk shit about my film. You want to, like, get in the ring and duke it out? And, you know, it's always, like, a consent thing.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, like, when you're not, like, shit-talking his movies, he's a pretty nice guy. He has, like, a fucking pizza restaurant in, like, Vancouver now.
We should go.
because he got kicked out of this country.
Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada?
Vancouver, Canada.
We should go.
Yeah, I'd be down to go at some point.
And go, let's fight.
At some point, I want to go to Canada for like TIFF, like maybe like.
I'm so sad I didn't get to go. Like, I just want to go to Sundance. Sundance just happened, or is still happening.
I think I'd rather go to TIFF than.
Well, I just want to go to like all of them, really.
Because if I go to Sundance, I can't show someone porn. Because it's in Utah. Not that I was
porn illegal in Utah.
It's not, but you can't show people like another person porn, and they can't like sell it there. It's Mormon.
Utah's scary. That's why like SLC Punk's such a good movie.
I need
Salt Lake City is scary.
Yeah.
When I did a layover in Salt Lake City once, and there are still like smoking rooms there. Just like in the airport, just like with giant clear walls and like old women and it's just filled with smoke. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Where am I? Did I teleport through time? But no, I really like Cleo from 5 to 7. It's definitely not any of my top ones, but I really enjoy it. And I think I liked it when I first watched it. That was my first introduction of Varda. Because I'd heard great things, and then I watched Faces, Places.
Yeah, this is the second one I watched.
What was the first one you watched?
Vagabond.
That's the first one I watched. Or what was I watched? Wait, I literally have the view order I have. Hold on. What am I doing? I watched Uncle Yanco first, and then I rewatched Faces, Places. But the first one that I like watched for the first time was Vagabond as well.
Ah, okay.
That was a full length film because Uncle Yanko's like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I love him. So what'd you give the film?
I would give this one probably a 7.
I'm going to give this one an 8. 7.5 for us. Cleo,
whose name is not actually Cleo. I don't know if we said that. It's Florence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Florence. But she's called Cleo.
It's her stage name.
Like Cleopatra. She's the fucking...
Yeah.
She's the lady,
She's
apparently.
out there looking for Mark Antony.
Okay. Next is it Yanco? Yeah, Uncle Yanco time!
Uncle Yanco!
This one's gonna be a short talk.
Yeah.
Uncle Yanco's documentary that's 20 minutes. It's about Uncle Yanco. So, it's her dad's cousin, I believe. So it's technically not her, like, uncle, but it's one of her blood relatives she never really met.
Yeah.
And he lives in... Does he live in the U? Was that the U.S.?
San Diego.
It was San Diego, yeah. So she, like, finds him, and she shows up, and the way her documentaries... This is actually a pretty good introduction to her documentary style. Because she'll recreate scenes from her past or, like, scenes that happen.
Yeah.
And she'll try to do it with the same people. So she'll be like, I met my Uncle Yanco. Here's a remake of what happened. And he's like really bad at acting. He's like, are you they show
are
like
you
9...
Eugene's daughter?
They show like 9 takes really quickly. He's like speaking in another language.
Yeah.
That I don't think was French or English.
Yeah, because she says that he speaks French really well, but he pronounces his R's with, like, the Greek R pronunciation.
Because, so, growing up, this goes back to, like, Beaches of Agnes, which we'll be talking about later, but I guess this whole episode will be filled with the lore of Agnes. Her family was Greek, but she didn't really know that. Her dad was naturalized, so he became, like, a French citizen when he was, like, 50 years old. So, like, by the time she was born, she always thought she was, like, French for quite a while, even though, like, Varda is, like, a Greek name, I believe. And it wasn't until later she found out, and she started, like, exploring her roots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Yanco was somebody that, like, actually knew some of these roots.
Yeah. Because her father died when she was, like, young.
Very young.
So... he didn't even tell her she was Greek. She found out, like, after his death.
Yeah.
So yeah, she goes to meet her uncle Yanco.
Yeah, and he's living on a boat, or like a boathouse.
There's like a community. There's like boat houses out there.
I love the one that's made out of like I don't know, it looks like a big fucking pyramid or whatever.
Oh,
with like it looks like a pyramid fused with a skate park.
Yeah, it's like they're talking about how they're like society,
like an A-frame and stuff.
Yeah, there's like a line where they're like not anarchists, but they're like.
I mean, it's their like own little commune, pretty much.
Yeah, people who are like off the fringe of society. But yeah, so Uncle Yanco, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's like an artist. He does like paintings.
I love his little paintings. So what he does is he like kind of makes paintings, but instead he like puts like felt on things and he like makes that and then he kind of paints over them.
Yeah.
They're very fun. They're like, they have this, it's interesting because Uncle Yanco and Agnes are pretty similar people,
even though that they
never met. Yeah.
Because there's like a part where he brings up, he's like, oh, you know, when I was growing up in the family, like artists were seen as like, you know, fucking deadbeats and no goods and kind of like black sheep to the family.
And even then, like, in some cases, you could argue like they were right. He didn't like. He's not rich or anything, but he's comfortable. He lives in a place that's like pretty expensive to live. Like he makes enough that he can live, but he doesn't really have anything saved because he doesn't need to save for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's happy. Like there's a bunch of people that like love him and respect him.
Yeah,
he's like they have like big house parties pretty much on their boats.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking around at the end. There's just like 9 people on the roof just hanging out. And he's just like patting them on the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Uncle Yanko's a very fun man. I like him a lot. He's dead. He's probably been dead for like 40 years.
Probably. I wish that she had like stayed a little longer and we could have gotten just a little bit longer of a documentary.
Like, yeah, I like the shortness of it and the shortness of like the Black Panther one.
Yeah,
they're nice and like concise, and they're like.
I feel it.
Like, I don't think everything needs to be a feature film.
No, I agree.
But I would have liked even like 10 more minutes to be about the same length as the Black Panther one. But it was very joy, and it was inspiring. It's joyful.
Yeah.
He was just talking about shit. He's like, you know, this one murderer, this barbarian, was killing like hundreds of thousands of like Greeks and stuff, and that was our ancestor. And she's like, well, we don't know that. His name was just Varda. But he's like, yeah, but that's Varda.
Yeah.
He's just a funny guy.
He is. All right. What do you got anything else to say on this one?
I'm trying to think. I just kind of. I like it. I like because his name was actually Gene. I think his middle name was. I don't even know where Yanco came from. Oh yeah, he died like 4 years after this movie came out.
Aww.
He was 78 though, so not like. Yeah, he was pretty old in this movie.
Yeah.
Yo, he was married 3 times.
Whoa.
Let's see. Let me see if there's anything interesting to say on his Wikipedia page. He had a pretty full life.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway, he's a beautiful man. I love him. What'd you give this movie?
I'd probably give it like a 7.
You give this one an 8. I liked it a lot. I think I just like the spirit and the way they talk to each other. It's just nice. I also really love when he's like opening the window to say things at one point, like later on, he's like opening the window. He's like, "Did you know?"
Yeah,
it's just fun.
Yeah.
So 7.5 of this one.
Oh, 2 in a row.
All right, Black Panther. Go.
Black Panther.
Well, Black Panthers. Black Panthers.
Yeah.
A movie by what's his name?
Couldn't tell you.
He did Creed. I've heard Creed's a good movie.
So I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen pretty much any Rocky film.
I've seen all the Rocky movies, just neither of the Creeds.
Rocky 6?
I saw half of that one. I didn't finish that one.
I've heard that one's really bad. Or no, I think Rocky 6 is actually decent. I think Rocky 5 is the really bad one.
Notoriously bad one. It's weird. Yeah.
It's weird how like consistently good apparently that series like is though. Well, not even good, but just like well received.
Yeah, in a corny kind of like fun to watch, good kind of way.
Yeah.
I'd really only say the first one is like the legitimately like kind of good movie.
I've heard the sixth one's also pretty like good.
Yeah, I was like bored by it when I was like 12, so. But I'd probably be more open to like a watch of that one now. But yeah, because number 2 is pretty alright. It's like the first one, but a little bit cornier. The third one is where it starts like getting that 80s cheese in there with like Mr. T. And the fourth one's where they like peak, where it's like...
Is that Ivan Drago?
Yeah. That's where it's like the perfect amount of like over-the-top corniness.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? Let's roll with it.
And then 5 is just like... From what I remember...
Where he has like the American flag in the poster and he's like wearing his cape.
Yeah, I think so.
Anytime they do that, I'm like, this movie's not going to be good.
That might be 4. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the posters. But 5's the one where he's like a street fighter and he's got his son.
This is the poster for Rocky 5.
Yeah. I was going to say, most of them I think have like, there was like a VHS set that had like the American flag behind most of them.
I love America. Oh, wait. No, I don't. Got him!
One of the big songs in the Rocky is the Living in America. But, yeah, Black Panthers. This movie is just kind of an overview of the Black Panther movement.
Especially around Huey Newton.
Yeah.
Which was the big thing happening at this time.
Yeah, Huey Newton was arrested for shooting a cop, but there was like a lack of evidence against him, and like the entire community was like, yo, what the fuck? They're like, he more than likely didn't shoot this guy. And I'm gonna be honest, aside from like what I see in movies and stuff, I've never done like the deep dive on the Black Panther movement, so this is pretty interesting.
This is a pretty like good way to start, because it's pretty it's pretty objective in its approach, even though it does side more with the Black Panthers, just because.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, they're right.
Yeah.
They were in the right. Remember when the FBI shut down the Black Panthers, but they didn't shut down the KKK?
Yeah, remember when they tried to assassinate Martin Luther King?
Yeah.
That was...
But, and then on his birthday a couple days ago, they were like, we love Martin Luther King!
It's like, oh, yeah. And also, didn't you guys just try to, like...
But he,
revoke the
Huey Newton was like the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. Like, he was the big one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he was involved in a shootout in some way. He was there.
Up until this point, this is going to be extremely ignorant, but his name I was familiar with through a Flowbot song.
Was it Handlebars?
No, it's like, do we need prayer or revolution? And then it's like, I can't remember who they say, but they say someone, and then it's like, Huey B. Newton.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first... I don't know if it's off the Platypus EP, or if it's off the Fight with Weapons, or whatever it's called. Fight with Tools, whatever it's called. It's been a while since I've listened to Flowbots.
But it's pretty much just an overview of... like the Black Panther movement. It's talking about black empowerment, and there's this one guy who talks about like 10 things they want, and he's really well spoken. I really like his cadence. He's like, number 1, and he talks about all the stuff he wants. He's like, hey, we don't want to die from police. And I don't know if that's it's kind of a big deal, and I don't know why it should be. Like, I just don't want to die.
Yeah. And I don't remember what the 10 were. The one that I remember being like, was the one where he's like, stop sending us in the drafts. Like, we don't want to be drafted. It's like, me either, buddy.
But it's like, they specifically talk about how, like, they're talking about the Vietnam War, which is interesting.
And I get the point with that.
They're talking about, like, nobody wants to go to the Vietnam War because it was a pointless war where millions died over nothing.
Is it Vietnam where they would, like, put black people in, like, the front of the groups?
That was pretty much all of the wars, it seemed. It did that a lot in a lot of the wars. Yeah. But they're like, we don't have rights here. So why would we go and fight for this country where we're not even, like, we don't even have rights or respect?
Yeah.
And until we have that, why would we ever fight?
I get it.
Like, I was opposed to if I was there, I'd be opposed to the Vietnam War because it was evil. But that's also a good point as well.
Feeds into the overall evil.
It's the same thing Muhammad Ali was famously like, I'm not fucking going. Exactly. You can put me in jail. Fuck you.
Me, whenever they try to draft me in the future.
When we talk about... they talk about in the Beaches of Agnes later on, they talk about the Vietnam War, and they talk about the Iraq War, and they talk about how people cared less. They didn't protest as much because there was no draft. Exactly. There were still millions of people dying, but they didn't care anymore because it wasn't affecting them. And I think the Beaches of Agnes is really good because it talks about, like, the problem with like a lot of modern day liberals is they don't actually care unless it affects them.
Yeah.
Well, Varda's out there being like, I like the Black Panthers.
Exactly.
And she was, like, openly opposed to the Vietnam War when it was, from the very beginning. She went over to fuck you guys.
Cuba back in...
She made I need to watch it. There's a documentary, like, pretty much video essay that, like, 7 directors made that were, like, showing their opposition to the Vietnam War. I think Godard did a part of it. She did part of it. The guy who did La Jetée did a part of it.
Okay.
And apparently it's very good.
Huh.
Anyway, all I'm saying is Agnès Varda was perfect.
She's pretty fucking great. Yeah.
But they talk about it. The film ends with Huey Newton going to prison for the murder, or he gets manslaughter charges. It was pretty much a political compromise. And then they, like, people that thought he was guilty were like, give him the death!
It really didn't please anybody.
But it was eventually overturned, like, 2 years after this, and he was released.
Oh, good.
He was later murdered, like, 20 years later.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, fuck.
By a group called, I think, the Black Guerrilla Coalition or something like that.
Oh, jeez.
The Black Guerrilla family, which is an African-American prison and street gang. I'm not familiar with them, so I'm not going to talk about them, but I also don't really remember the reasoning why he was murdered, so I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah. But he was a very important man that I don't think was talked about quite enough.
Because I was going to say, like, high school never fucking covered this or anything.
Of course, you also went to high school in fucking Lewis County.
That's true.
But, yeah. Black Panther, good. Well, Black Panther's also good, but Black Panthers, the movie and the group, good.
I don't even think they talked about Malcolm X. I think the closest they came was like, yeah, there was like Martin Luther King and then everything was okay. It's the education that I remember getting. Yeah, no, I really liked this. It was really insightful, and it definitely, like, scratched that curiosity part of my brain.
Why they don't talk about Malcolm X is because he was Muslim.
Oh, yeah.
And he was also, like, not opposed to violence.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck it, if they're murdering us, we're gonna resort to violence. Like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. But it's very, like, significant, culturally important, and was part of history.
Malcolm X is an extremely important person to talk about.
Exactly.
Don't talk about. And Huey Newton was as well. But people want to talk about Martin Luther King, who was a great person as well, but they use that as a tactic to stop people now, like black people now, from protesting in certain ways. But I mean, like, just be like Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King did a ton for the civil rights movement. But that's forgetting about, like, the Black Panther Party, who would go around with guns and guard people being pulled over by police to make sure they weren't being, like, murdered or mishandled.
Martin Luther King, not to, like, deduct from his legacy or anything, but it's like, he wasn't the cause, but a symptom of something much bigger that was going on.
Yeah,
like,
and
if
Martin
it wasn't
Luther
Martin
King was
Luther King,
great.
it would have been somebody else.
But yeah, and even then, they like whitewash him, and they take out a lot of these things. Like, he wanted a bunch of stuff that they don't talk about. Like, he's like universal basic income.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah, there was
same shit that Bernie's preaching about.
Literally,
today.
It's the same stuff. The victors of any war write the history book.
Oh, exactly.
And in the civil rights movement, black people got the right to vote, but in many, many, many places, they're still not treated as equal. And that it's proven in history books. Like, we don't learn. Instead of, we talk about, the Pilgrims. We talk about the fucking Pilgrims all the fucking time. Not the slaves they brought over. Not all the black people that literally built this country with their hands.
Yeah.
Not all the struggles that they went through. They were like, you know what? For a time period after slavery ended, white people and black people didn't really get along. That's about the furthest they go in history books. So I very much enjoyed this movie because I think it's mostly because Varda was just like, fuck it. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. I'll release this. Because I'm sure there was a bunch of backlash for releasing this movie when they like came out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Especially like that one white person in the movie, like, I don't really get why they're protesting.
Yeah.
Well, they want him released. Even if he's guilty, and I'm like, what do you mean? There's no evidence against him. Like, you mean you do? Innocent until proven guilty.
And then the film ends with like, after they announced that like he was like sent to prison, it brings up an incident where two cops went and shot the images of Huey Newton and. Who else was it?
I think it might have been the other founder of the Black Panther Party. Who I can't remember his fucking name.
But they had like pictures of them in the window, and the cops came and shot the pictures.
Bobby Seale,
and,
I believe.
Destroyed their images. And it's just like, yep, you're just coming in and harassing this group. Okay. Fucking pig.
So what'd you give this one?
Probably like an 8. I like this one.
I gave this one an 8.
It's an 8?
I'm just giving this all the films 8s. Not all of them, but a lot. Okay. So next is Vagabond.
Okay.
How old do you think the actress was in this movie?
Let me think about it for a second. Let me try to get like a fresh, like mental image of her face.
Also, doesn't she look like Brie Larson?
Yes!
The whole time I'm like, can we remake Vagabond with Brie Larson?
I mean, I think it's a little unnecessary.
Yeah. I just mean, if they were to remake it, do it now, put Brie Larson.
But she looks a lot
like a lot. Especially like even the face mannerism. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't know, like 23.
She was 18. I was like, she has a lot older face, but it's probably just because she looks like really like raggedy the whole time.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't bathe. Yeah. Because I'm sleeping on the road. I loved this movie.
I also loved this movie.
Tinatea didn't like this movie. She also didn't like Cleo from 5 to 7. And I'm like, it's so weird because she doesn't like French films, but she lives in France.
And I'm like, sometimes you're just not going to like movies, but it's so sad because I was like vibing with this movie so, like, I love this movie.
Yeah. I found this sick AMV to this movie to,
Did you really?
I did.
You found an AMV, like an...
Well,
you found a music video?
It technically wasn't an AMV.
But you found a music video? What song was it?
Easy Way Out by Low Roar.
That's really weird.
It fucking works though. Like it's like a 3-minute video. I'd say you could check it out. Because I mean it definitely like spoils the film, but the movie starts with a spoiler. So as long as you don't get like
the structure of the film kind of reminds me of Sunset Boulevard in a way.
Yeah,
at least the beginning. Like, once it gets going. What's weird is the way that people, the kind of pseudo documentary feel to this one specifically.
Yeah.
And the way that characters interact, it kind of reminded me of a Wes Anderson film. It's not the same in tone, but just the way that characters interact kind of reminded me of Wes. Like, it feels like Wes Anderson probably saw this movie and he's like, I like the way these characters talk. That's probably what a Wes Anderson sounds like.
I've heard his voice, but it's not like...
It's not super memorable like David Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
Her fucking telephone!
Get real.
Get real.
What is the photo for?
What's the photo for?
There's no way! There's no way! God. I know that's not David Lynch, but it's from a David Lynch movie.
Okay. Do you want to begin with Vagabond?
Yeah, so the movie begins, and it's basically this guy going around. There's like a big, like... It's not a farm. It's just a big, like, kind of field with a bunch of, like, little bushes or, like, trees that are kind of, like, bushes.
Just like a property.
Yeah.
I think they have a couple, like... machines there that do stuff.
Yeah, but this dude's like going around, he's picking up sticks, and then he finds the main character, Mona's body in a ditch, frozen. To death. And he's like, oh. So he kind of goes over, tells his boss, they call the cops, and they like scrape the body up and put it in a body bag. And then we get the introduction from the narrator, who I didn't, like, rewatch the film or, like, go back and check out any scenes. Did it ever reveal who the narrator was?
I don't think so. That's why, like, it's that pseudo-documentary feel.
I need to... There's, like, a 40-minute documentary. I didn't have time to watch it.
I meant to... There was one on Cleo as well that I wanted to watch. I just didn't have time.
Yeah. But I'm definitely going to give that a watch, because I'm curious to see if, like... This is, like, based off any, like, real person, perhaps. And maybe just, like, Agnès Varda was like, that fucking struck a chord with me. I'm going to make it into a movie.
Oh, the original French title, Sans toi ni loi, or something like that. It translates to With Neither Shelter Nor Law, which is a great fucking name. I really like Vagabond. Vagabond's probably my favorite English word. I love the term vagabond. It's just like...
See, this movie had been popping up on my radar because of the title, because there's a manga I like called Vagabond. So it would always pop up on my feed, and I'd be like, what the fuck is this? And I'm glad I finally watched it.
Yeah, Agnès Varda is the narrator, though.
Okay, I
was pretty sure. I just made sure just to...
That was kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah, so basically she's like, I kind of interviewed a bunch of people about Mona, and I didn't dare tell them, like, she's dead. And I also didn't tell them that her real name was... What was it? It starts with an I, doesn't it? I don't quite remember. But they say it, like, once. And twice in the movie. Once here, and then once when she tells somebody later in the film what her real name is. So it's not, like, super, super important. But basically, yeah, so the basic premise of the film is that the narrator, Agnès Varda, talked to these people who had had interactions with this, like, nomadic woman who was just kind of walking around and living on the road. And kind of like the glimpses and like the different, I won't say like different character traits, but definitely like different interpretations that people had on her.
Yeah.
Like we'll see like some people have a much more sympathetic look towards her and think like, oh, you know, she was very cool and very nice. Some people are like, she was super lazy.
She was stinky.
Yeah, exactly. So you get like all these different like kind of like biases mixed into like people's stories about her.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about from Cleo.
Yeah,
because like that's especially with Yolande and like her boyfriend, because she sees her like at the beginning, she's like they were so in love, and she thinks that for like so long.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't remember like necessarily the specific order that like she meets people in. I don't have my notes with me. But basically, the film begins and Agnès Varda is like, as far as I can tell, she came from the sea. Because the movie starts with her like kind of like getting out of the ocean from a swim, getting dressed, putting on her like pack and walking and starting hitchhiking.
Yeah.
And do you remember who the first person who picks her up is?
No.
I don't either. Fuck. Yeah, I guess we don't necessarily have to go in order. It's not like there's like a character arc.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the first things that really happens is she does one of the first main things is she meets up with the other, like another vagabond, like a male one.
Yeah,
that guy, and that's the first like interaction we see with her. That's like where she's like happy. I guess she's kind of just walking around, just asking people for money and stuff beforehand. And
she hangs out with this guy for like a few days.
Yeah,
smokes pot with him. Just kind of
makes
lives
out
on his property.
Yeah,
but that's like he's like kind of like laying low at.
Yeah, it's like an abandoned place, pretty much, or I think it might be like on the market.
I think the first place is where the one of the like is this linked to where the woman sees her like sleeping with the guy. Or was that before this? Because I know that was like one of the earlier ones.
I believe that was before this.
Okay, so there's like a point where she sleeps with a guy in a church. And then this woman who's like super unhappy with her boyfriend. Because her boyfriend only like...
It's the fucking worst.
Yeah, he's like, I only like you... Like, we'll either go out and I'll like show you off and have a good time, or we'll fuck. But if it's not one of those two things, leave me the fuck alone. Like, he's like one of those types.
But he's still like mooching off her.
Oh yeah, he's like, you need to get a new job.
He's living in this job place when he's not supposed to be.
Yeah. And she like wanders over to the church and sees Mona like just sleeping in some guy's arms after they fucked, and she's like, wow, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that image really sticks with her. And we'll see her character come back, but then that leads into like she gets with this other guy who she's like hanging around with for a couple days, the other vagabond.
Yeah.
Smokes the pot with. One of my favorite shots in the movie is when she's like over and like touching the statue's face.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Yeah. I can see that.
And then he runs out of pot, and then something happens where he like has to pay attention to like something grabs his attention and she goes. I can't remember what it was.
Remember, he gets punched in the face. So the guy, the boyfriend, he's part of like a crew that like robs places that are like abandoned.
Oh yeah.
Or like on the market, and they're staying in one of these places, like just kind of squatting. And they like break in. And they're like, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" And he's like, "I better go." And she's like, "Go check."
Oh
and he
yeah,
goes, and he like immediately gets punched in the face.
That's
and as soon as that happens, she like blows out the candles, and it just cuts. And he's like, "Yeah, so she just kind of left." Like,
yeah,
you know, when I had weed, she wanted to stay, but as soon as I ran out, she was gone.
Yeah. To be fair, it might have been the fact that you just got fucking one-shotted by a group of intruders.
She might have just been like, "Oh God, better get out of here." But
yeah.
I think it was a little bit of both. I think she was just kind of done as well. She's like, time to move on.
Kind of like jumping ahead a bit here because this you find out like little bits about her. But it's clear that she chose the road. Like she chose this life. She's happier with this life. And we don't really get like a whole lot of answers towards why. We just know that she's not very fond of people. That's probably one of the reasons why I like this movie so much. I like movies that have antisocial characters. She's not very fond of people. She used to be a typist and probably just didn't want to fall into the mundane, like, just tiers of society life that everyone has to. She probably, she's just like, oh, I'd rather just be free and live by my own, choices instead of, going to work every day and having to, like, earn money to keep a house and stay grounded in one place and find a person and deal with the pressures of society. Fuck all that. I'll just walk around and smoke and camp places. So, after that guy,
she starts wandering again. All this time she's like hiding from the police because she like doesn't have her ID.
Yeah, and they'll throw her in jail if they catch her.
Because police hate homeless people.
Yep.
In, I guess, every country. But she's like hiding from them. She's looking around. She gets picked up by somebody. They drop her off at like a farm, I believe is the next real sequence. And there's this like farmer. He has like a master's degree in philosophy, but he's like, I became a farmer.
Yeah, you could tell that he went through like kind of a similar period to Mona.
Yeah, they're pretty similar people,
but
he
chose like a middle road in between two lives.
So he lives there with like I think that's his wife.
Yeah, he's got a wife and kid.
Yeah,
and he's like, well, the freedom was nice, but it was very lonely, and
they're goat herders.
Yeah, so I just chose a life that's like the road. But it's a little bit more sociable, less lonely. And she's like, I fucking hate people. But I wish I could grow potatoes. And he's like, oh, I can give you like some land and you can grow some.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, I'll help you. But, at first they just let her like stay on the couch and then they give her like her own little like camper thing. Yeah. And then she just like doesn't do the work.
Yeah, she just chills in her camper all the time and smokes cigarettes and then he's like,
what the fuck are you up to? And she's like, And this is when she reveals, like, I used to be a secretary, but that life, I don't like people. I don't like doing jobs. I just want to be alone. I don't have aspirations, and that's okay. Which I do agree with that sentiment.
Yeah. And there's a line that I really liked here where she's like, I didn't leave my regular life and like, because I didn't want to work for a boss in society. Why would I want to work for a boss on the road,
Yeah. I didn't come here to work for another boss kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, they're pretty similar people, but they're at odds, not just because he chose the middle road, but because she's she's young. She's 18,
young and she's on a destructive path.
Yeah. And she's like trying to figure out who she is. And obviously a lot of people won't let her do that because it's kind of an inconvenience for them, but they have the space. And he's like, nope. But she pretty much leaves. She's like, fuck, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And she's outie.
So she leaves, and then is this around the time when she gets picked up by the college professor?
The fucking lady who loves trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, professor researching trees. I can't remember her name, but she's like a pretty well-off woman. And she's like, when I first picked her up, she was very, very stinky.
Yeah.
And she seems like a pretty bougie lady that like wouldn't like her, but they start like talking and they really connect.
And then she just keeps stopping and like picking up like food. And she's like, I gotta go to this conference, but you can just stay in the car.
You can just sleep in here. She pretty much just lives in her car without really moving for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And they like become friends. She buys her things. She's like, by the time like we got to know each other, I didn't even care about the sink anymore.
Yeah.
And she's researching trees, specifically ones that got infected by like crates that came from the U.S. in World War II that had like some disease. I learned stuff from this movie. I'm like, that's a thing? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they were trying to like mend the trees. They were trying to cure them of this disease.
Yeah.
And she meets up with her like old student.
The worst person ever.
Yeah, evil man. What was his name? Jean-Pierre? I think it was Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, but
and he's like, she's like, do I scare you? And he just doesn't say anything. But eventually they do have to part ways.
Yeah, she's like, all right, I gotta go home. I gotta drop you off. So she drops her off in this like little woodsy area, and yep. And
she gets, there's somebody that's been following her, at least like from the beginning of the woods. And
yeah.
She gets raped.
Yeah.
It just shows him like jump on her and be like, you want some company? And she's like screaming no, and then it just cuts to the next scene. And she's
and this is kind of like, they never like bring up the rape again, but this is kind of the turning point.
Yeah, because like for quite a bit of the movie, it's kind of like kind of jovial in nature. It's like she's kind of easygoing. She doesn't get along with men, but
yeah,
a lot of the women, she's like has a good time. She's like trying hard, and then this happens, and everything just starts going to shit. Mm-hmm. All the men just start being assholes. She meets a Tunisian vineyard worker who like trims like the vines and stuff.
Yeah, I felt really bad for this guy because it's like, oof, because it's not even necessarily his fault. What went down. It kind of is.
He didn't do anything. He's like, so what happens is this guy, fucking Asun, I believe his name was.
Yeah.
He meets her. She's like, hey, can I have some water? He's like, sure. Here, you can also work with me if you want. And he's just really nice right at the beginning. And he's like, listen, sir, when I do a vineyard, I get a flat rate of like 900 francs. So if you wanted to help me, we can like split it. Because it's just about the vineyard being done. That's like, we could just do it faster. And she's like, okay. So she starts doing it, and they start like kind of
getting
romantic,
and she actually kind of seems to fall for it,
and she kind of likes the job too. Like she's enjoying it as she gets going, and they're like kind of sweet. And I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah,
and then the guy that like provides them room is like, they're not going to let her stay in regards to like the people that come like in a few weeks or something.
Yeah, because a bunch of the
like,
people have gone on holiday.
Yeah, so these other, like, I think they're all Tunisian. They, like, show up, and they're like, no, we don't want her. And she's like, what the fuck? You said you were going to, like, fight for me. And he, like, just doesn't. Like, I get that there's a lot of people, but he could have just said, listen, they're not going to let you when they get back. But he, like, promised her. He's like, I'll protect you. I'll help you. You can work here. And then he immediately is like, they're not going to let you stay. Here, I got a car to drive you. Like, I felt...
Yeah, if I was this guy, I would have been like, I'll go on the road with you, and we'll go find a different place to work.
Or could have just at least tried a little harder. But he's like, don't, I'm going back in. I'm going to go argue. And then, like, 5 seconds later, he comes back. He's like, they said no again. Like, he doesn't actually, like, fight for her in any way, it seems.
Yeah.
It just seems like he's
I see your point,
bit of a coward.
I definitely see your point, but...
I thought he was a good like a well-written character, though. I like him.
Like very realistic, because it's like, you really can't argue against, like, 6 other people who are all just unanimous. Like, no women. It's like,
so he drops her off at... Does he drop... Is this when the rape happens?
I'm pretty sure the rape happens before this.
Okay, he drops her off somewhere. Maybe the train station? Because then this is when she just starts kind of living at the train station.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know if it's I think it's a train station. It's some kind of station.
Yeah.
She starts like living here, just kind of on the bench, and then she like meets some guy. She starts like making out with him,
and he's like, "Hey, you'll do good in the pornos, baby."
Yeah, he pretty much wants to make her a prostitute.
Yeah,
and then she just kind of is like, "Bye."
Well, it seems like she was totally down for that. And while all of this is happening, there's a couple things that happen. While they're at the station, they get like shit-faced drunk and something that happened earlier in the movie that we kind of skimmed over. It was like an in-between part.
Yeah, the professor
gets like shocked at one point. She's like grabs onto like a lamp or like electrical lights by the mirror. Something happens when she's in the bathroom and she's being shocked. Mm. And in that time, her life flashes before her eyes.
She's like, I need her back.
She's like, I can't stop thinking about it. Like when my life is flashing before my eyes, the girl just kept appearing, and I feel so bad. I just left her out there. I don't even know her name. Please go out and look for this girl for me. And then that leads to this scene where he's at the train station and he gets on the phone and he calls somebody else and he's like, I found the girl, but I'm not going to tell the professor that I found her because she's drunk. And she asked me
She's stinky. She does scare me.
Yeah, she does scare me. But not because of her character or anything, but because she absolutely repulses me.
Oh, we
skipped the grandma.
Yolande, yeah.
Oh, the best fucking scene in the movie. I love this old lady.
Okay, so before this, I think it was
it's probably like in between the guy who just dumped her and the train station.
Maybe it's somewhere around here, but the lady Yolande, who's like a housekeeper for this old woman, and
she was the one who saw her like sleeping. Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh, I need her to come with me," because she's just very lonely. So she brings her here to like this old lady's apartment. She's like, "You'll live here and you'll keep me company." Mm-hmm. And then she's like, okay, I need to go buy groceries, so you just watch this old lady. So she's like pretending to be Yolande because this old lady has like really bad eyesight.
Yeah.
And she's just like walks in. He's just like, hey, do this. And she just starts drinking the brandy instead. And she walks over and you're like, you're not Yolande. Who are you? And she's like, I'm Mona. And then she's like, how are you, old lady?
Yeah, and she's nice. She's obviously giving this old lady like conversation she hasn't had with anyone in like several years.
She's just asking being real with her, actually.
Yeah, she like because the thing that like brings her over, she's like, who's this in this picture? Oh, you want some wine? It's actually brandy. And then they just get drunk together.
And they're just like laughing.
And she's like, oh, my nephew comes over all the time with the flowers. And he just wants this fucking house. But I don't say a single thing about it.
Yeah, because it's like, it's funny because he just says the same thing. Like, oh, you're looking so good, in such good shape. And it's Jean-Pierre. Yeah. I like that pretty much all the characters like have some sort of intersection. Like most of them at least, except like the goat herders. But even then they like walk through like the woods that she's close to. Like everything pretty much is interconnected in some way, and I love films like that. But Yolande gets back and she's like, she's like is afraid that she's like stealing her job, and she's getting along better with the old lady than she does, so she like kicks her out immediately.
Yeah.
And then pretty much right after, Jean-Pierre shows up with his like girlfriend or his wife, and they're just like, you're out. You have 1 week.
Your boyfriend stole shit.
Well, and they also know that her boyfriend's like staying there.
Yeah.
And that's not allowed. And she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then he's like, Grandma, how are you? You're looking in fine shape. And she just starts like laughing. She's like, you're looking in fine shape.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I do love her.
And then, okay, jumping back to where we were. When he sees her at the train station, he's like, I'm not going to tell anyone that I saw her here. And then we get to the point where she goes back with the guy who's like, you're going to be a great prostitute and porno actress. You're a great fuck.
This was right. I realized that the Yolande stuff was right before
the train station.
Because she has those silver spoons that she tries to sell.
That makes sense, yeah.
She had lifted some spoons. She's like a pretty like nice person in some regards. She's very like she's obviously very cynical and stuff, but she also lifts things from people. Like, she steals bread from, like, the farmers and stuff, but she never, like, steals. It's pretty obvious she's stealing out of necessity, too.
It's not like she goes and steals, like, the most expensive thing in the house. Just something that can get a little jingle in her jangle, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so she ends up, like, going back to whatever place they're staying at, and then a fire gets started, and she basically, like, she's like,
yeah, because the guy that was with her earlier, the vagabond that, like, she was staying with, that was the same guy. He shows back up and he, like, gets an argument with somebody else that's, like, living in this place, and, like, a lamp falls over and lights on fire, and she, like, wakes up and there's, like, a fire. She's like, ah!
Yeah, so she grabs away.
Yeah, she doesn't even grab all her stuff, really. Yeah. She's missing a couple things, but she, like, gets out of there, and then she just starts wandering.
And then she kind of gets to the point, she stays in, like, this place for a little while. It seems like she's very low on food. She's very hungry. So she goes out, and there's this guy. She's like, I need bread. And he's like, I don't have any.
Town.
So she goes to the town.
And there's a festival going on that she was unaware of.
And she just gets assaulted by paint.
Well, no, it's wine.
Oh, it's wine.
Yeah,
okay.
It's wine. Because they say it at the very beginning as well. Like, she was covered in, like, dried wine.
Oh, okay. It looked pretty thick on, like, the version I was watching, so. Because, like, it's like the two dudes in the wheel.
Well, it might have just been, like, grapes as well, like, mushed up grapes.
Yeah, that.
But there are people, like, dressed up as, like,
grape monsters?
Grape monsters, pretty much. And they're like, I don't know what kind of fucking festival this was, but they're pretty much, like, everyone's, like, closing their doors right as she gets in. And then there are people, like, running around, like, throwing grapes and shit at people. And, like, she has no idea what's happening, so she's, like, screaming. She thinks she's being assaulted again. Like, this is the only thing that, like, directly correlates with the assault, because, like, there's this random man that's, like, attacking her pretty much, and she has no idea what's happening. So she, like, locks herself in a phone booth and is just, like, screaming, and it looks like she's on the verge of tears. And, like, even though this seems, like, somewhat comical in its, like, idea, it's, like, really sad.
Yeah, but now once she kind of, like, gets the idea that because at first they were, like, all pounding on the, like, phone booth, and then after, like, a couple seconds they all, like, disperse and go throw wine at other people. And then she kind of gets the idea, it's like, oh, this is like a festivity of some sort, and then she kind of wanders away. But her clothes are wet.
Including her, like, blanket she's been using.
Yeah.
So she's, like, really fucking cold, and she keeps wandering out into, like, a vineyard, and then
she just
falls.
Trips.
Yeah, she trips on something, and she, like, can't get up. It's cold, and you gotta remember, like, it's cold outside, and now everything on her's wet, so it's even colder, and then she
just dies.
She just, like, faints,
pretty much immediately.
Dies of hypothermia throughout her sleep, pretty much.
Man, this movie's really fucking sad.
Yeah. Like that first half, like, it was, like, kind of nice, and, like, and then everything just goes to shit. And it's all fucking Jean Pierre's fault.
Yeah, fucking if he literally, that professor probably would have been like, "Hey, dude, just
kind of like lesbian vibes going on."
I kind of thought the same thing.
I was like, "You're gonna fuck?"
Like, I like to just picture this movie ends in that alternate reality where Jean Pierre wasn't a dick, and he's like, "Yeah, she's here at the station," and the professor comes in, and she's like, "Hey, it's me. Come, you want to come stay in my car permanently, or maybe even my house?"
My car permanently. You want to live? You want to be my car goblin?
I can. If you want to come back to society, I can fix you up a little bit, or if you just want to chill in my house and keep me company.
I really, really like the music in this movie.
Yeah, the music's good.
I really like the music in this movie and Uncle Yanco the best. I forgot to mention, Uncle Yanco's soundtrack is just like, bah, 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 bah. It's really fun. But the music in this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like, the final scene when she's, like, dying. It's like, oh!
Yeah. But, yeah, no, this movie's fucking sad. And then she dies, and it just ends there, doesn't it? It might have
Yeah, they do like one more, like throughout this whole thing they've been doing like documentary moments with like some of these characters like talking about her, and it's that same thing of like reflections of things.
Because I remember they like show like the people's faces who interacted with her, and this is why I felt bad for the one guy, because it shows him with like the scarf around his neck and he just looks fucking like mortified. He's just like, oh man, I fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you did, and now she's dead.
Yeah, no, it's brutal. It's a brutal fucking movie, and it deals with so many. This is a dense fucking movie. Too.
Yeah, it's kind of
a lot of
the road of isolation. It's like you only can go so far on it before you reach that kind of point of no return, where it's like people just kind of like, I don't know. It's like once you reach a certain point, people just look at you and like assume like, oh yeah, that person just wants to be isolated, and then you're kind of like stuck in that life almost. And it's very like just a self-destructive path. It's kind of like the major vibes I got from like the movie,
Yeah, I felt that. And they talk about the aspects of mise en scène.
Oh, yeah.
In The Beaches of Agnes, but I think it's most prevalent in... I don't use the term a lot because I don't want to sound like I'm pretentious.
Well, I mean, it's
a pretty common term. Well, it's like, out of like the main things that you talk about in the film, it's probably the most uncommon, but it's like, it's like the...
I think...
It's the most common of the least common.
I'd say it's very common. Like, it's even used in like big blockbusters. It's just that most people wouldn't attach that name to it, because I mean what it is establishing,
it's the way that like the
details that you can infer a lot more through.
And this is like,
there's a lot of visual storytelling in this film, and there's a lot of like you piece together who this person is, not necessarily by what she does but what she doesn't do. I think this film has a really strong sense of that. Like, and there's the themes like there's so many. There's like I said, this is a fucking dense movie.
Yeah,
that's why I liked it so much. Like, it's an hour and like 46 minutes or something, and it's like so packed full of like so much character and sadness.
Yeah.
And I love sad movies, but this movie was fucking brutal to me. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, like, this is definitely the one that left the biggest impact on me. Like, I watched it the day before yesterday, and I've been thinking about it like ever since.
Yeah.
I've just been like, damn. Like, I'll just see that Brie Larson looking face in my mind, and I get sad. I'm like,
yeah,
I just wanted you to win.
And she's so good in it too. Like, I really like the performances in this movie. She's fantastic. But I also like the professor in this is really good. I also really like the goat herder guy.
Yeah,
I like all the... Like, I think all the characters are really well written in this movie, and pretty much all of them are well performed, in my opinion. I can't think of like a bad performance in this movie.
There might be some that are just kind of like average, but that's like the worst you'll find.
And I also really like that pretty much everyone in this movie somehow like is a part of her too. Like, every character is somewhat relatable to her. Like, Yolande, even though she thinks like, oh, she's in the perfect relationship, this character, like, every relationship she's in ends in like disaster pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same thing. The goat herder guy, they were both wanderers for a bit. The Tunisian guy, obviously it isn't the same thing, but he's like a foreigner, so he's obviously been ridiculed like through racism and stuff, and they talk about that just briefly, but it's the same thing with like the sexism. That's why it's so fucking sad when like she's kicked out for being like a woman.
Yeah.
When it's obvious that like he's had struggles because he's like not white.
Yeah.
The same thing with Yolande's boyfriend. Like, I thought that was a really good parallel because he's like stealing things for profit while she's stealing things for necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Like I fucking love this movie because like all the characters line up really well with who she is, and I really like how like they see parallels as well, but they see it in like the exact opposite ways. even like Jean-Pierre's character, it's interesting because it feels like it's not only like he doesn't just think she's like stinky and like a loser and stuff, but it's also
like she like challenges every sort of like idea that he has.
Yeah, and also like it's obvious that he loves the affection he gets from like his old teacher and stuff. Like they're like best friends at one point.
Yeah, he'd be very like jealous if she came and ate a lot of that up.
10 for me.
It's a 10 for me too.
So, okay, I got this one wrong, I think, because like I was worried that like you might not like this because Hinata like didn't like it at all.
Oh, no,
this is definitely
my favorite.
What if I'm like wrong and this movie's not actually like as good as I think?
No, this is definitely the best of the bunch.
Yeah. Ooh, I might just watch it again soon.
I probably will, honestly.
Okay. What are you looking for?
I lost my ranking paper.
The fuck? Is this it? No. There's not... Oh. Hold on, everybody. I'm checking what Thomas did with his fucking ranking paper. Thomas, where did you put it?
I don't know. Is that it?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, we found it, everyone. Okay. Next up.
There.
Beaches of Agnes. Also a pretty sad one in the last half.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting is this one, you always assume that like the later parts of life, like the most latest part, will be like the saddest, the most contemplative of death. But Faces, Places, jumping ahead a bit, is more jovial in nature. Like, she's already accepted her fate, mostly.
Yeah.
And it's mostly this one where she's
Fun fact, I probably wouldn't have picked Faces, Places, because here is why I picked Faces, Places. Because I was like, oh, Faces, Places, because I remember when she died. Like, I remember, like, the time she died. That was the movie that was coming out over here at the time. And I was like, oh, this is her, like, final movie.
But there was another documentary.
Yeah, but there was another documentary afterwards. And if I had known that, I probably would have picked that because I was trying to pick, like, a good, like, bookend of her life kind of deal, which is why I chose Faces.
You want to do Varda by Agnes, that one?
Yeah. I didn't realize that existed.
I actually, I'll talk when we talk about Faces Places. I actually think that's a great end point for this one we did.
I did enjoy Faces Places. I'm not, like, mad that I picked it or anything.
Fuck JR, I hate him. No.
Why was he such an asshole about the glasses the whole movie?
It's like Godard's son.
But the Beaches of Agnes, so there's a lot that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about all of it. We're just going to kind of hit like highlights because this movie is kind of all over the place. It's a documentary. It's about her life. The movie starts on a beach that she like spent a lot of time on when she was like growing up. And she's got a bunch of mirrors there because she really likes mirrors. And
it's like, what? She likes mirrors?
What? I couldn't tell from Cleo.
Yeah, from Cleo.
So, and then she like kind of like talks about the mirrors. She like shows the people who brought the mirrors onto the beach. She does that a lot. She'll be like, here are the people who helped me with this part. Let me just pay my tributes to them. And she'll like show them on camera and be like,
yeah, she's like, I didn't get my cameraman. I feel so bad, but here's his name.
You can tell that she's a person who very much likes capturing everything on camera.
And it's just, I think I love Varda's film so much because she like so obviously cares about everyone that works on it.
Oh yeah.
Like
she's very, very
she feels like, and it feels like she thinks like, There's directors that feel like it's their sole vision, and she feels like she's a director that's like, no, this is a product that we made together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, I definitely like that more in a director. I don't want a director to just be like, I'm a genius. And I don't think Varda ever, like,
I think it's case by case basis, like, it depends, because I won't say I like a brand of director over another.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with people like that. I just don't like people that are so obvious about it, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to like start a debate over this, but like I like auteurs, and it's very much like part of that culture for like to have the main visionary. And I think it's important that if you're a director and that's the kind of film you want to make.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but I feel like even with auteurs, like some people like forget that they're not the only one making them film. And that's the only thing.
If you're like an asshole, do you like?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I like it because she's not an asshole, and she because she's I would say like a fucking genius in a lot of cases. Like a lot of these movies, I'm like, what the fuck? There's some really, really great stuff, and I think it comes out from her like not being like really aware of cinema like at all in her early life. They talk about in The Beaches of... We'll just jump around to like
10.
Yeah, she said I'd only seen 10 movies by like 25.
Yeah.
And she made like Cleo by the time she was 34, so she couldn't have seen like that many movies because she just started making them.
Yeah.
Like she first was like a photographer and she's like, what if I put this in cinema? Like, so she has a very different view of like making films than other people, and I think that really helps her. It makes things feel like new.
Yeah. Definitely gives it its own like unique voice. Yeah. But yeah, so this whole like little first part of the film is kind of like her humble beginnings, you know. We get a sense of like her childhood. She grew up the third of 5 children. And because she was like the youngest of like the first 3, but like the oldest of the final 3, she felt like this gave her her own identity, like compared to like the groupings. Like she kind of felt like the odd one in the middle, and which made her like more independent and her tastes more unique. And she also had like a second family that she would go and spend like summers with when she was like a little bit older. Her father dropped dead after losing at the casino. And then she later found out that he was Greek, and then that leads into the whole like Uncle Yanco stuff, which she brings up in this movie. Yeah,
they talk about Uncle Yanco, and they talk about Cleo, and it's mostly and Vagabond. Those are like the 3 big ones they talk about.
Yeah, they mention a couple others like here and there, but
yeah, like the first film she made. And
yeah, but they don't like dive like super deep into like any of them.
She just kind of wants to... She talks about more of like her experience in making them more than like the content of them.
Yeah. She talks about how she likes old ladies. She's like, I like old ladies. I like old people.
Shows a naked old lady. Is that the naked old lady from Vagabond? Is that the same old lady?
I don't know. I know that's not like a shot from Vagabond.
Oh yeah,
but it might be the same lady. I couldn't tell you.
Kind of sexy.
But yeah. So she grew up, didn't watch very many movies. She was into photography, and she would like go around and take pictures of people, and she'd like hear their stories, and then she's like, oh man, I really want to like put this into film. And then she like read that Robert Faulkner, is that the name of the author who wrote that novel that was like the dual narratives where it's like scene by scene focusing on 2 different stories, which inspired her first film, Point Court, or whatever it's called, which focuses on a couple who live in the town, and then it alternates with scenes of a fisherman who also lives in the town. And the only thing that the 2 plots have in common are the fact that they take place in the same setting. And then she kind of like, there's like a point where she gets the chance to like go back and look at her childhood home. But you can tell that she's not a person who's like very nostalgic of her childhood. She straight up says
it. They're like, do you miss your child? She's like, no, fuck that. Pretty much.
And she's like, yeah, I didn't really feel anything going back to the house. But there was one time where I came back to this town and it did feel pretty great. And it was pretty much after like my first film.
Yeah.
Where she got to go stay in the big hotel that was paid for by some guy who I think is the guy who helped her who like helped get the recommendation for Cleo. It might not have been, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And then
the trains. She meets that guy.
Oh yeah, the dude,
childhood home.
Yeah,
there's just a guy with trains, like a bunch of model trains.
He's a big like.
He was like a
train
doctor.
expert.
Yeah. He has a bunch of model trains. I had to check the conversion rate because he's like, it was 80,000 francs. I'm like, how much is that? It's like $2,000.
Dang.
Which is, I was just like, okay, $2,000's a lot, but for a hobby, I'm used to things like that.
Yeah, it's not.
Magic the Gathering has $1,000 cards as well, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
So. Yeah, and then she talks about, like, there's, like, a period of time, like, because she had to leave the house during the war, in which they went and lived on a boat.
Yeah. And then is this the part where she's, like, sailing on her little boat?
No, that's when she's talking about a job she got.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, weird scene, but apparently there was, like, a neighborhood flasher that no one ever did anything about.
And they're like, we just left them alone.
Yeah, we really didn't pay.
I really love the way they like recreate the scenes, like her mother just like and then like her and her sisters and brother like running around.
Yeah,
I really like the young like woman that they have play like her like version later on.
She's like
like 18 to 20s kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah. I thought it looked a decent amount like her. Yeah, so
I like how Varda had the same haircut her entire life.
I know. It's great. I
wasn't like a big fan of the haircut until she was old, and I'm like, now it looks good, especially when she's like, now it's like I have a little hat because she like dyes it white, so it's like.
Oh, well, I figured her hair was white, but she dyed, like, the bottom of it red.
I don't know. It's like a weird white, though. Maybe.
I mean, she was, like, 80.
Yeah.
So, who knows? I can't say for certain. But I think, actually, wait. I'm pretty sure they bring that up in Face's Places, because he's like, why do you put some color in her head? And she's like, I can't just go like white. That would be too normal. I have to do something. I like color. Yeah, so basically she just kind of like makes movies. She talks about like her fucking happy experience taking a picture of Jean-Luc Godard without his fucking shades on. And then, pretty much like, the main point beyond that is in 1958 at, I think it's a festival she meets him at, but she meets her husband, Jacques. I can't remember his last name.
Jacques Remy.
Remy. And then
Remy.
A year later, they moved in together.
It's so sad hearing her talk about him.
Yeah.
Because he died in like 1990. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And he died of AIDS, so they couldn't, like, because of the stigma against AIDS at that point, they felt like they really couldn't, like, really be honest about, like, the disease he was going through, because it was viewed as, like, a very, like, shameful thing back then.
Yeah. It's still, like, in a lot of circles, it still is.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay, A, drop the homophobic bullshit, and B, even if you hold that, like, philosophy, it's not homosexual exclusive. There's other ways of getting it.
There are thousands of straight people.
Yeah, exactly.
Millions, even.
It's like, what? You can get it through, like,
You can get it through like
heterosexual
a bunch
sex,
of stuff.
Needles, like all sorts of different various ways. Bad blood transfusion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Yeah, so basically, she has a couple kids with him.
Matthew and Rosalie.
Yeah.
Who Rosalie was the producer on Faces Places.
Ah, okay. She grew up to be a set designer? Is that what they said?
I think so.
And then Matthew grew up to be an actor.
Yeah, Matthew's an actor.
And then basically just kind of trimming through the fat here. There's a part where she dresses up as a potato. Dank. Love that.
What was that for?
I don't remember. There's a lot of really
it was like an art installation, and she's like, well, I wanted to get more people to come, so I dressed as a potato. And I was like, you go! And she's 80 years old, walking around as a potato.
It's like, you're so pure, Agnes. I love you. And then she kind of talks about the period before her husband died. He was getting ill, and he started writing memoirs based on his life. And she read them, and she was like, wow, this would make a great film. And he's like, I want you to make this film. She's like, are you sure? So she went and made the movie based on his life.
And he was and it shows footage of him just holding her hand while she's making it. Oh.
And then she returned, finished shooting, and then she spent the rest of her time with him, and then
he dies 10 days after shooting ends.
Yeah. And then she talks about she got various shots of him through the dying process because she just needed to remember him, and it's part of the grieving process. Oof. But anytime she talked about Jacques, it was just so sad. You'd hear the pain in her voice. Yeah.
And that's where most of her fear of death came from, you know.
And that's the biggest thing that pissed me off about fucking Jean-Luc Godard and Faces Places. Jumping ahead here, because it's not bad enough that he just fucking skipped out on meeting her one last time, but he intentionally left that reference to Jacques, and she's like, oh, he knows I'm probably thinking of Jacques. She's like, I've got terribly mixed feelings on this. I like you, but you're a dirty rat. Yeah, it's just oh man. But yeah. And then she celebrates her 80th birthday, and she gets 80 brooms. Because that's how...
Because that's a slang term in French,
for years.
Yeah.
Age.
80 brooms before them are toilet brushes. Oh, but I really like a lot of the setups in this movie, how they just randomly in a street, they just set up a beach where she has all her employees just sitting typing.
Yeah, there's lots of little scenes that...
I love the whale scene. Where she they set up a big tent, and then they cut back to it, and she's on the beach, and it's designed to look like a whale, and she's just sitting inside it. There's a lot of just fun scenes.
They're talking about when they were making one of her movies, and they came across they're in a motel. There's this random couple that they found arguing, and they're like, "Hey, do you mind the camera?" And they're like, whatever.
So they just filmed them. They just filmed them and put them in the movie and had the main character walk by. There's just a very real altercation.
And it's just oh my god. Yeah, there's just lots of good little moments like that. The potato scene.
I want to watch that movie that she did. I think it's called 101 Nights with Robert De Niro in it. I don't know if you saw him.
Oh,
it was in a boat. It was one of the English films. It was about the guy that was Mr. Cinema or Mr. Movie or whatever.
No, I don't.
He was 100 years old.
I don't recall that part, but I do recall the part where she is one of the main launchers of Harrison Ford's career.
Yeah.
She tried to cast him, and then the casting directors told him you're never going to be an actor.
Something like that. And he's like, yeah, I don't...
She got some interview footage. I don't...
I think he's also in that movie.
He might be.
Yeah, he's in 101 Nights with Robert De Niro's also in that movie.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Which is funny, like nobody saw it. It like flopped super hard.
But yeah, this one's pretty nice.
I really like this movie, probably because it's sad, and I love sad movies. But it's just it felt so like loving to like her husband. I really want to watch that the biopic she made of him.
So do
I also really love the poster and the caricature of that guy. I also love that there's one guy that wants to be like, he's like, I don't show my face. So she just puts a cat in front of him.
Yeah.
Like a big cat.
Yeah, that was
really, really funny. Because he's like huge. And they make his voice like, it's just really funny.
Yeah.
And I like the part where it's like she does like a mini like biopic of like all her friends, like just like a 2-minute little documentary about them. It's just sweet. I like Agnès Varda because she cares about the common person.
Yeah,
she tells people, especially like that's why I like Faces Places a lot because
she's
like
very much about like getting out.
And remembering, like, the regular people.
Yeah, because that's what her origins was. She liked taking pictures of people and hearing their stories and then putting it on film.
And I do, too. I love stories about regular people.
Yeah.
That's why I would watch a documentary just about a random guy.
Yeah.
If it was well made. Like, if it's a shitty documentary, I don't really want to watch it. But a well-made documentary just about a random guy, I will watch anything. If he loves, like, if he's a biscuit enthusiast, cool. Biscuits. Let's talk about biscuits for an hour and a half. I love hearing about people's passions. And there's, like, when you look at, like, a lot of celebrities, they're kind of pushed into the same hole of having the same passions just because that's like what's popular. Mm-hmm. I want to hear about people that are just like, yep, I love collecting biscuits. Yeah. Coin collector. Let's make a movie about a coin collector who lives in Tuscany.
There you go.
That's my movie idea for next week.
Oh, great.
A coin collector. He's trying to get the last coin, but the only person that has it
is a billionaire.
Kim Jong-un.
Oh.
So he has to go into North Korea. He has to infiltrate and steal the... Just kidding. That'd be kind of fun, though. Or he becomes best friends with Kim Jong-un.
There you go.
And he reunites the two Koreas.
Wow.
All because he was trying to... he was trying to get his coin.
And then the move...
It'll be like the Forrest Gump of coin collection.
No, but the coin... Like, he reunites the two Koreas, like... during the second act, and then he takes the coin back, and then North Korea accuses South Korea of it, and he's like, do I return the coin and unite the two Koreas again?
And then they find out independently, and they're like, oh, we're at war with this one guy.
The American military agrees to help him, but only at the cost of the coin.
Only at the cost of all his coins. He loses it all in his conquest for...
This is good. I like this.
Yeah, I feel like I was pretty much feeling this movie about the same as all other ones, like an 8. But the last half really spoke to me. I think it's just because it was sad, probably. So I gave this movie a 9.
I give this one a 7.
That's an 8.
Yeah. My main reason for it, I like this movie. It's just, it's a little all over the place. It's very sporadic.
I kind of liked it. I don't know why.
I like it. It's just, it's not like my preference. You know what I mean?
I feel it. I think I just like it because it doesn't feel like most documentaries. It feels...
No, I definitely like take that into consideration because I was thinking about giving it like a 6 originally, but I find a lot of it interesting. I like Agnès Varda. I like
when she dresses as a potato.
I like that.
The 9 is for that scene.
It felt very personal, and I did like it, so I gave it a 7.
Okay, the final movie we will be talking about today is Faces Places, which is co-directed by Agnès Varda and JR.
Yep.
Who is a photographer / artist based out of France, whose identity is unconfirmed. That's like one of the reasons he always wears sunglasses and a hat. But I mean, like, I'm sure most people like know who he is.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably been doxxed by this point.
But it's, you know, it's like the unconfirmed thing, just like some band members of certain bands are unconfirmed. But,
yeah.
You know, it's his persona to be like, I'm JR. But he has a cool way of doing, like, art that he does, like, giant prints of people, and he pastes them on, like, walls and stuff. I love this, like, art aesthetic. I think it's fantastic. I really like the look of it.
Yeah, so the movie begins with them explaining ways in which they did not meet.
Yeah, I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, I like it.
Agnes Varda dancing on the dance floor, and she's like...
Yeah, they're like, we didn't meet.
Because she was like 88 at this point.
Yeah.
She was like, I think 89 when she died or something like that.
Yeah. I think she was 87, I think they say.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was filmed a little bit before it came out.
Weird.
And it's like... Yeah, so...
Yeah, because she died at 90. She was just about to turn 91.
Man, if only we lived in the timeline where she lived another
70,000 years.
That'd be nice.
She became the first immortal person because she's so cool.
I'd be okay with that.
But she has to always wear the potato costume. The potato gives her immortality.
But yeah, so basically...
real quick. Go ahead. Keep going.
We find out that that he, like, got in contact with her because he was, like, a fan of her movies, specifically Murmur, which is, like, a documentary she makes about, like, murals. So they had, like, met together and, like, collabed on, like, some photography stuff, and then she came to his office, and yeah, basically they just kind of, like, hit it off. They really like each other. And they decide to travel to this village and do an art project where they take baguettes and they put them, and it's like they start with a picture of, like, this woman with a baguette in her mouth, and it, like, cuts off at, like, part way through the baguette, and then they have, like, another person come through and hold up a baguette, and it's like a big, like, really long baguette through multiple photos of people holding baguettes, you know. I feel like I've said baguettes a lot in the last 30 seconds. I'm bad at talking. I am so sorry. But, so they do this art project, and they, like, paste it on a big wall in this town, and they leave, and they're like, wow, that was cool. And the movie's just them going around different places and doing these different art projects. Let's see. What was the next one that they did?
What did you say the first one was?
The baguettes.
Ah, yes, the baguettes. That was great. The second one... was it the farmer?
I think the farmer might have been, like, the third one.
Because the lady with the hat?
It might have been. I guess we don't necessarily have to talk about these in order either. I mean, it's not like there's, like, a huge character arc. I mean, there's a minor one, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
So one of the ones is they go to this farmer dude, and he's just out in the middle of nowhere.
He's a handyman, but he's also kind of a narcissist. But he's like, oh yeah, I basically, like, run this farm by myself.
Because he's like, I love technology. He has, like, a tractor that's, like, the newest and the best tech, and he's just, like, pressing buttons. He's like, I'm just kind of a passenger at this point.
Yeah. So they, like, take a picture of him and they, like, paste it to his really big barn, and they're like, you're gonna be, like, the star of the town now. And he's like, I already am.
And then he, like, stands in front of it. He's, like, kind of like this.
Yeah, it's even in, like, a Christ-like, like...
It's really funny.
Pose, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And then, yeah, there's, like, a woman that they get wearing, like, a hat with an umbrella.
With a parasol.
And they, like, paste it in her town, and she's like...
I didn't think it was going to be that big.
Yeah,
people keep talking to me
like,
about it.
Oh, man, I'm really shy.
And she's like, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to like it.
But everyone else in the town's like, we love this. This is great.
Oh.
And then there's like the one they do with like the dock workers' wives. That one was really cool.
Oh, the second one I think was the miners.
The miners, yes.
So
They go to the Black Hills.
They go to like a row of like they were originally houses for like miners.
Yeah.
And everyone's left, and the city's trying to like demolish and rebuild.
Jeanette, is that the?
I think her name's like Jeanette. And she's like, I'm not leaving. I have too many memories here, and they're not like kicking her out because they understand. They're like, she'll just die.
If this was America, that bitch would be gone.
Yeah.
France, they're like, yeah, you can stay. We get it.
I think it's mostly like the specific part of France as well. I'm sure there are cities in America that like wouldn't let them be kicked out, but not a lot.
I don't know. You're like capitalism's worked its way into the small towns around here.
But so she grew up around like the miners and stuff.
Yeah.
She was like young, but so they pasted a bunch of miners on the walls.
About like her dad was a miner, and he used to bring back like bread from the mines, and they were like, yeah, we love this bread because it's from the mines. Like the mine culture was very big back then.
Yeah. But then they pasted a giant picture of her on like her house.
Yeah, and like they have a bunch of like
and she's
miners.
like crying.
Yeah, she's very appreciative of it. And then there's like then they do the lady with
parasol. They do one that's it's like a portrait of these old people from like probably like 50 years before, or 60 years before.
They paste it like right outside the balcony.
Yeah, and it's like, and it shows their like grandchildren, I think, and they're like, we have a piece of them now.
And the guy's like, we don't mind the mural, but you need a permit to use like that lift you got. And he's like, all right, well, any sort of fine.
Yeah, just put it on Agnes's license. And he's like, do you have a license? And she's like,
yes,
yeah, I don't drive because I'm sensible. I'm like, can't all old people just do that? Maybe once you're 80, just stop driving.
Yeah, as soon as you've got like,
because your eyesight like rapidly decays.
Yeah, like
you can go blind in like a year.
Yeah, if you've got like really, really bad eyesight, don't drive. Sorry, but safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that one. They, like I brought up earlier, they do the dock workers' wives, where they
I really like that one.
Yeah, that one was one of my favorite ones, where
because it's like Agnes is like, I want the women.
Yeah,
these three dock workers are like, they're nice guys and they're like important, but she's like, we need to talk about the women that are behind them. And that's always been Agnes's message. Like, let's talk about the unspoken heroes, like, because these women have been supporting these guys, like, even when they go on strike and stuff, which strikes are great, but you do need people to support you behind them, and they're always there, like the unsung heroes.
Like a high school teacher of mine always used to say, behind every great man is a great woman. Which I agree, unless, the great man is gay, then it might just...
Or just not, asexual or aromantic, but I guess behind a lot of great men are great women.
Yes.
Or great men also.
Yeah.
Or behind a lot of great men are a strong support system, which probably consists of some women.
Yes.
Boom.
And behind every great woman is...
More women!
More women! Yeah!
Lesbians, rise up!
But, there's that one. I'm trying to think of some of the others.
So I really like that one because what they do is they have like, they put them on shipping containers in parts, and then I really love they're sitting on a shipping container, like just on there. They have these like little lawn chair things, or like the fold out chairs that they like set up in a bunch of different places. They're always sitting in the same position, even if they're sitting on like those two benches early on. They're always in the same position, like slightly too far away from each other. It's very weird, but I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But they put it on separate shipping containers, and then they put it all up, and then they
open it up and have
they open the heart area, and they have them sit there, and I'm like, ah!
Yeah, no, me too. I was like the one lady who was just like, I don't like being alone, and I don't like heights, and this is both of them wrapped up into one. But the other two are like, I like this. This makes me feel powerful.
Yeah, but it's I really love the look of it.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot. Then there's
and they really just like the time lapse of them putting it on.
Yeah, that too. Then there's the fish. They do the fish one.
Yeah, they do the fish one where they're just like, well, and it's not just the fish because that's the water tower in general. So they have the workers there. So they have these workers and they're just all like doing poses where they're like reaching one way and then the other people are reaching the other. So they reach together and stuff.
Yep. And then there's the abandoned village that they go to as well.
In that same section, they do go to a water tower and the fish thing. They put these fish up, like plastered against this water tower, and Agnes is like, "Now the fish are happy; they have somewhere to swim."
Yeah,
she's like, "What a cute thing to say about a paper fish."
And then he's like, "Do you remember where we got these fish?" And she's like, "I don't know." And
then it cuts to them like at a.
I wonder if that was meant to be like a transition or if she legitimately didn't know. Because, I mean...
It seemed like she was... she does... Even in the Beaches of Agnes, she talks about, like, being forgetful and stuff. And losing it.
And, I mean, it makes sense why she wants to, like, capture so much stuff. And she does have a line in this movie where she's like, I like to...
Capture as many things so I don't lose it.
Before they drop into the holes in my memory.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so...
Yeah, they go to like a fish market and they're just like taking pictures and like there's one with like a big mouth that they're doing. She's like, I love it. It's really gross.
Yeah. And then
they go to that abandoned village.
Yeah. Some other things that happen. We go to like one of her eye exams. She's got like an disease. Which, yeah.
I'm like, why are you putting that?
Yeah, if that wasn't bad enough, later in the movie they show like footage of just like an eyeball, like an old like surgical footage of an eyeball being sliced, and I was like, ah! I did not like that.
But yeah, they show her like getting injected in the eye, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I already hate needles. Like, the doctor's I had to for my new job, I had to get like 2 needles in me, and I was already like, ah! Yeah. And when I watched that, I'm like, ah!
And then she goes to meet JR's grandmother. And the whole movie, she's harassing JR. She's like, why don't you take off this stupid fucking sunglasses?
Yeah, because
why are you keeping this part of you from me?
Yeah, it's like one thing, like... I get it. He wants to keep him on. I get where he's coming from as well. But she's like, she sees so much similarities in him and like Godard. Like, they're pretty similar. Like from what I know about the two, except I think JR's a nicer man.
Yeah, I was gonna say JR seems like less of an asshole.
Yeah. But like the way they like pursue art, I think, is kind of similar. And they're both artists, I guess, and they do look similar.
Uh-huh.
I think that's one reason that she like gets along with him so well, because she did like love Godard like as a friend.
Yeah,
and then he's just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, lost touch with him. I guess he's
like, I'm not gonna take off my sunglasses. And then she meets his grandmother, and she's like, does he always keep these on as well for you? And she's like, yep. That's always how I see my grandson. I love it. She's like, what do you mean you love it? Yeah. Then she's like, what did you used to call him? She's like, my little boy or something like that. She's like, well, that's cute, but that's kind of what everyone does. And this lady is obviously like doesn't remember a lot of things. She's like, I don't remember. And he like reveals that she used to call him my little fellow. And I'm like, that's a really weird thing to say, but I kind of like it. My little fellow.
Yeah.
Can I start calling you my little fellow?
No.
My big fellow.
No.
My average-sized fellow.
No, I don't want to be a fellow.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
So, yeah, all that happens, and then basically, I think we've talked about all the art exhibits that they did. Or not exhibits, but projects. They get on the train, and she's like, I'm gonna show you to Jean-Luc Godard. I almost said Picard.
she had said she had been, like, in contact with him a bit, like, that he was expecting them. And then they show up to his house, and he's like, no.
Yeah, he
wrote, like, a message in the window being, like, it was, like, a direct quote from, like, one of her movies, and then, like, a reference to, like, her dead husband. She's like, he knew this would hurt you. Fuck you, good on.
Yeah.
And he just, like, doesn't see them. And then they're sitting in a bench, and...
I almost thought it was meant to be, like, he was, like, leading them, like, it was going to have some contextual clue to, like, because she's like, oh, this is the restaurant we ate at last time I was here, or whatever. Like, that was, like, one of them. Or it's something about a restaurant was one of them. And I was like, maybe he's at that restaurant.
No, he's just an asshole.
And she's just super fucking sad because her, longtime friend.
Yeah, and she's like, this might be the last time I see him.
Yeah,
and it would have been, I think, because I don't think they saw each other, and then she died.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find an answer on that when I looked it up online.
Fuck you.
But
maybe if he took off his fucking glasses, he would see the bright side of life, like in the silent film.
He just wears regular glasses now. He took the shades off once he started losing his eyesight.
Fuck you, I'm gonna rip out his eyes. But then JR, like, shows her his face, and they, like, blur it out.
Yeah.
They recreate it just like in most of the other ones, and they blur it out, and he's like, maybe he just wanted to challenge he's like trying to make it like better. He's like, maybe he just wanted to challenge the narrative of the film. She's like, yeah, maybe, or he's just a dickhead.
Yeah. And yeah.
And then it cuts to like it shows them, and then it's like fades out into like an animated version of them, and the credits roll.
Yeah.
I think we went through pretty much all the people they see.
I think we did.
But there's a couple other scenes where they're like in a graveyard. She talks about like she's not really afraid of death anymore, and I think that's interesting because she kind of obviously isn't the Beaches of Agnes. Like, at least it's pretty, and it's nice to see that like by the time she was almost out, she was ready to go.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch her final documentary and see if that stuck around or if she got more.
I fucking hope she wasn't just like, I don't want to die.
I hope JR's in that fight.
I really like JR.
So do I. Like, I feel like he was
I loved like how they interacted with each other and like the playfulness of everything. We totally forgot the fucking fallen bunker one on the beach. The side.
Yeah.
So at one point, in World War II, there was these German bunkers on like the beaches that were set up, and this village after World War II ended, like pushed one off the side because it was already like falling over, and they're like, "This'll hurt somebody," so they pushed it over, and it landed on its side, and it was like stuck there. So like, we're just gonna put something on there. So they put one of the first like guys she really photographed, like one of her good friends, and she talks about like respecting him and like remembering him.
Yeah, and when they go to the graveyard, they're visiting his grave.
Yeah,
somebody else's.
And then they put him up because it was the original picture of him was him like sitting, so they have him like sitting diagonally.
We referenced much earlier in this episode a part where she said both. Where he's like, oh, you just like naked men, don't you? That was this part. Because the picture they were like looking at, he's naked.
Yeah. But he's like sitting there, and then they come back the next day and it's gone.
Yeah.
And it was because they talk about how his work's always temporary, but this one, like, because the sea was right there and the wind was harsh, it erased much quicker. And she's like, that's fine. That's his memory was honored, and then it's gone. I really like the scene of them sitting on this beach because it's like really windy and it like looks really cool.
Yeah, and they're like, oh shit, we're gonna die. We're not gonna be able to finish this documentary. Yeah, I really like this one.
I've seen this movie described as like a warm hug before, and I kind of feel that.
Yeah.
It feels this feels like probably the most. I feel like a lot of her films are joyous and celebrating just the regular person, but I think this one, out of the 6 we watched, was probably the most. Either that or like Uncle Yanco, but Uncle Yanco was short, so.
Oh my! There's one scene I want to mention. I don't remember what it is, but they're like in the car and they're like both jamming, and she's like singing the lyrics, and she's like, "Bam, ring that bell" or something like that.
Yeah, it's the Ring the Bell song.
Oh man, that brought so much joy to my heart.
Yes, it was great. I also love the abandoned buildings they go to and they put stuff up. Or they also do stuff on buildings that haven't been built yet, or like it's just cinder block. And JR's like laughing at her. He's like, "There's so much great architecture,
she's like, "Shut up.
and you want to put it on a fucking ugly ass building?" She's like, "Yes, we have to bring life. Why you always making fun of me?" It's really great interaction they have.
There's like another part earlier where someone's like, "You two make a great duo. Where did you two meet?" And he's like, "Oh, we met on this online dating site." And she's like, "I don't like this joke that you're saying right now." Stop teasing me.
It's funny because like they get along so well, and they were like 40 years apart.
Yeah,
it makes me want to go like befriend an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
So what did you give this one?
I would probably give this one an 8.
I gave it an 8. What a surprise!
Wow.
Okay, so that's all of them. So you want to do my ranking first?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. I folded it too much. It's barely alive anymore. Oh, damn my fidgety hands. If I can get it unfolded. Okay. Alright. This is probably way the fuck off. Like I said, this is a total fucking random.
Okay.
Alright. Do you want me to go favorite to least favorite?
Sure, favorite to least favorite.
Okay. So I assumed Beaches would be your favorite. I guess Faces Places would be your next favorite. Then Vagabond. Then the Black Panthers, Uncle Yanco, and then Cleo.
All right. Yes, those were all wrong. It was, but like they were somewhat close. Like Vagabond was first, Beaches was second, Faces Places was third.
Okay.
So like if you had just
Sorted
switched Vagabond from third to first and moved the other two down, that would have been right. But Cleo's my fourth favorite, and then Black Panthers, and Uncle Yanko's my least favorite, mostly just because of the length. Okay, here's what I thought yours was. I actually had Beaches as your favorite, which is funny. Right. And then I had Faces Places, and then I had Vagabond, which, wait, that's the exact same thing you just said. And then I had Cleo, Uncle Yanko, and I put Black Panthers as your least favorite. Not because I didn't think you would like it, just because I put it as lowest.
My real order was Vagabond at my favorite, Faces Places is my second favorite. Black Panther is my third favorite.
Okay.
Uncle Yanko as fourth. No. Cleo as my fourth. Uncle Yanko, then Beaches.
Okay, so I was pretty close, actually, except for Beaches.
Yeah, Beaches you were.
If I had switched Vagabond... I got 3 right. I'll keep it.
You got more than I did.
Yeah, so you should watch some Agnès Varda.
Yeah.
She's my fucking... She might be one of my favorite directors. Honestly, all 3 of the directors we've covered have been like... I'm so glad we've started doing this, because they've been fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah. Maybe next time we'll pick a living director, since they've all been dead directors.
Yeah.
If we had done this, like, just a year earlier, or 2 years earlier.
I miss you. Okay, so what are we watching for modern pick next week, Haru?
All right.
Or this week, I guess.
This is a movie that I haven't watched in a couple years. It's a movie I like, but seemingly everyone else hates it. It's a movie from 2012. It's a little movie directed by Ridley Scott called Prometheus.
Okay, cool.
Figured we really haven't done anything kind of like
action,
big blockbuster movies on this podcast, so I thought it'd be a nice change of pace.
I feel it. Let me
I forgot to
Not
pick
that it's a
one.
convention.
I had one and now I can't remember what it was, so give me 1 second. I'll just pick something new. Okay. How would you feel about 2 movies that add up to like just a little over 3 hours together?
I could probably do that.
Okay. This is by what is it? Mamoru Oshii, the guy who did like Ghost in the Shell and Angel's Egg and stuff, the anime man. We're going to watch Pat Labor the movie and Pat Labor the movie 2. Or just the first one.
Well, the reason why I'm
You want to watch the series first.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the series I have on my anime drive that I've been kind of like...
I've just heard the
on my
second
watch
movie's
list.
like really fucking good. Okay. Well then talk about something while I figure this out.
Well, what can I talk about? Alright, I'm reading this book currently. I'm not super far into it, but it's called The Price of Salt. It's apparently like an early 1950s like lesbian romance novel. There hasn't been a lot of lesbian romance yet. I'm only on the 3rd chapter, but it's pretty interesting. It's about this woman named Therese who works in a department store part-time, and she's like trying to get a job as an actress. Her boyfriend's name is Richard, a little on the nose, given the material of the book. He's kind of a dick. I mean, it makes sense. It's his name. Did you find your pick? Okay.
We're doing True Stories by David Byrne.
Okay, True Stories.
Yeah.
Year?
1986.
1986, okay.
You can buy it or rent it from YouTube or Vudu, and then... What was your pick again? Prometheus? Let's see if you can watch that anywhere. Ridley Scott's a funny man. You can buy it or rent it from YouTube or Vudu and plenty of other places.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you guys for watching our episode on Agnès Varda. Go watch her movies. They're fucking epic.
Especially Vagabond.
Go watch Vagabond. It'll change your fucking life.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Tell your grandma.
Tell Agnès Varda.
Yeah, tell Agnès Varda.